Touchdown, Huskers! Isaiah Hunter for the Husker touchdown.
Who do you think you're fooling? Nobody's thinking about their job the day before a Husker game.
Backpedals the throw. Blitz picked up. Harris went out deep right sideline. 50-50 ball. It's picked off. The black shirts with the dagger. Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick. Sails the night for the Big Red. Drifts back to throw. Dumps it to an underneath crosser. Goody made the catch. Got popped. Ball's loose, but they say incomplete.
This is the Friday Husker Tailgate with Jack Mitchell, Nate Rohr, John Bishop, and Kevin Suits on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499 AM.
Do you smell it in the air?
Oh, baby.
Little more crisp. Do you feel it in the autumn wind? Or the late summer wind, if you're going to be technical. But that's it. That's that feeling this morning. It is the eve of not just a Husker football game, but a big game. But a potential, dare I say it, program-changing game.
Ooh, baby.
We'll discuss whether that is the case. But nonetheless, you have got the Michigan Wolverines, national champs from 2 years ago, noted runner-up in 1997. Congrats to them on that great season. With a head coach, because of their cheating ways, who will not be coaching in this game. With the quarterback that an 80-year-old guy got for his wife, along with Dave Portnoy and Tom Brady, making his fourth start ever as a college football player. The scene is set. Gary Danielson and Brad Nessler will be here. Bud Crawford will likely be here. Nebraska is, I don't know if it's the epicenter of the college football world, but it is one of the big games of the weekend, and we are here to break it down for you today. I'm Jack Mitchell, along with Nate Rohr. As always, John Bishop is here. You're at Mark Vail in the KLIN newsroom. Kenny Larrabee is our video producer today. You can see us on Facebook, the KLIN Facebook page, or on my Twitter, or the KLIN Twitter page, or KLIN's YouTube page. Watch us during the course of the day. Have some fun with that. It is time for the Friday Husker Tailgate. Gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to Big Game Weekend.
I like to think that the spirits are talking to me in the morning when I drive in. You know, I'm usually still in bed at this hour of day. I don't know what kind of an idiot would ever wake up and do a regular 5-day-a-week show like this, but I like to think that the spirits are programming the music for me in my car when I'm driving in, right? And it gives me a message for the weekend. And the first song that was on was Larger Than Life by the Backstreet Boys, which is a fine song, but that wasn't speaking to me. But it was the second song that came on this morning. It was the second song that spoke to me, and it said, I knew you were waiting for me. It's a little duet. I used to play it back on Easy 107 back when I was a youngster here at the old radio broadcast house. But it goes, when the river was deep, I did not falter. When the mountain was high, I still believed. When the valley was low, it did not stop me. No. I knew you were waiting. I knew you were waiting for me. That's what spoke to me, because we have been waiting for this for years, for an opportunity to break through. I knew you were waiting for me.
I always knew the great matchup, the great duet, Aretha Franklin and George Michael.
Oh, tremendous.
By the way, isn't Aretha from the Detroit area, I believe, originally, or was?
And George Michael's definitely not from Detroit.
No.
He's from jolly old England.
He was the Husker fan in that.
Yes, exactly.
When they planned that out. Right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That song.
It spoke to me, man.
I feel like we might need, maybe that'll be the new third quarter song with the drone show.
I like it. Get out there. I knew you were waiting.
We're thunderstruck. Who is this? It is. It's upon us, and these weekends that we wait for during the football season. We're longing for the football season, And especially right now, because in so many of these years, obviously the last several years, things have gone wrong early for Nebraska. It has not happened to this point. Hope still abounds and an opportunity abounds. And I don't want to say things like it seems like the stars have lined up, because that feels like it's jinxing things, but it's hard not to have a little bit of that feeling, even when I try to repress it, Nate.
It's tough. I mean, you've got the quarterback, you've got a team that is playing at the apex of its confidence, 3-0, 2 blowout wins. You like the matchup. The other guys are coming in with a freshman quarterback. They don't even have their head coach. It's a good helmet game. There's just a lot there that makes this feel like if this program's ever going to break through, now's the time. This is the place. Of course, the Matt Rule third-year trend is also in play here. So there's just a lot that says this could be the time. Now they have to go out and do it.
Yeah, and I'm like, I have been like all of you, right, through the last several years, to the point that will always have a part of me that needs to be worked out for a while, that will say there's always, never just assume a good outcome. It just hasn't happened very often. But John, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel differently. And I know you felt differently about this game compared to comparable big games over the last several years for weeks now, having listened to you on 1620 The Zone.
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw this as an opportunity, a long time ago. I don't want to make it sound like I'm the only one that saw it. I'm sure a lot of people did, but I
didn't hear too many people say what you said this summer when you said you felt like Nebraska was gonna.
I thought Nebraska could win this game by 2 scores, and I was thinking, the logic behind that was I think Michigan is still in a kind of a flux here, because losing Harbaugh like they did, and of course all the controversy that came with that, and while it seemed from the outside it was a peaceful transition, I still sense that there's a lot of hesitation of Sharon Moore. And even though he's not going to be on the sidelines this week, there's just that you go through this, right? You go through this as a program, especially if you win a title for the first time in umpteen million years, where that coach leaves, and then it's like, oh, well, who's going to pick up the pieces? They still have great athletes. They still recruit very well. They're still Michigan. They're not going to be bad. It's just, let's face it, 2 years ago is the anomaly for Michigan. Yep. This is not a team that wins national titles on the regular. And so I saw, where the program was, the fact that, yeah, they're bringing in a 5-star quarterback, but it's his first year. Don't underestimate the fact that while Dylan is only a sophomore, he's got 16 games under his belt now. He's got a whole off season with his coaches, or 2 off seasons really, but under his belt. And so I saw the opportunity of, you got a freshman quarterback coming in, a program that's still in flux. Nebraska's, in the words of Bo Pelini, on the come. It all seemed to kind of work together, and it's like, it feels like this is that opportunity. At the end of the season, this could be one of those games that is kind of similar to the last time Nebraska beat a ranked team, and that was Oregon. That team ended up not being very good.
That's true.
But in the moment, they were ranked.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly could see Michigan being an 8, a 7, or an 8-win team and not being ranked by the end of the season. But that doesn't matter, right? You beat the teams when you play them, right? Mm-hmm. And so I see all of this as an opportunity to take another step. And I don't think this is as monumental a step as some people think. This is a winnable game. Nebraska's in good position to do it. They're playing with confidence. This week feels different than the Ohio State weeks of the past, when game day came here, or maybe Michigan from, 2021. This feels different in that it's not an aura of belief or hope. It's an aura of confidence. Yeah. And I think all of that comes together, hopefully, tomorrow afternoon.
John, you're talking about, the fact that this team's not long removed from a national championship. Think of when Nebraska started to slide in the late 90s. I mean, these were games that Nebraska would lose. I mean, you think they face a good Texas A&M team on the road. They lose that game. They lose at K-State. They fumble the game at Texas. I mean, transitions are tough, and they lost plenty of brain power off the Jim Harbaugh coaching staff. There's a lot of that's sitting out there in Los Angeles, and so there are holes in the armor right now with Michigan, and we talk about where Nebraska's confidence and where their belief is. Where's Michigan right now? I mean, they went down to Oklahoma. That's virtually an even game, at least on paper, and they lose that one. So they have to be wondering, does Underwood have enough? Do we have enough? And that, John says, at the end of the year, maybe this game doesn't have the luster, the oomph that it has right now. It's also possible this is a Michigan team that figures itself out.
Sure.
You just don't want it to be in Lincoln. So take advantage of it. And then, once Underwood gets his legs under him, once Michigan sort of finds its way with him, then the win gains more value. But you're right. Your basic point's right. They're gettable now. He's played 4 quarters on the road and lost that game. So keep him in a place where he's not confident.
Yeah, for everybody who's screaming at the radio or YouTube or whatever right now and saying, here we go with the media all of a sudden hyping things up when we've been down this road before. I will admit I still don't feel with a high level of confidence I completely know what this Nebraska team is based on their first 3 games. I will say that there is just I don't know how to describe it, and you can believe me or not, and maybe you don't feel this way, but it goes to what both of you guys said. There's just a different mental feel. I've got more confidence in the mindset of this team than I've had in a long time. Whether that's fool's gold or not, we'll see. But that's why I feel different going into this game than I went into similarly situated games over the last several years. And you said kind of hope versus confidence, John. There's been so many games, it feels like, where Nebraska's gone in over the last several years, again, over the last decade, where you kind of said, well, if things go right, if they get some breaks and, maybe get a couple of turnovers or see what happens here. That's not really what I'm saying about this game. This is one where you feel like if both teams, there's a decent chance if both teams play up to their potential, Nebraska very well could still be the team that's on top on this one. And I just don't think I personally have felt that way going into, Nebraska goes into Indiana last year. Remember, you were kind of like, well, here you go. Here's a chance.
Right.
Maybe we don't know how good this Indiana team is. And maybe but in the end, you didn't come in feeling confident. I could probably name 5-7 of those games in the last few years where a team comes in and you're like, this maybe this could be the one where Nebraska going to USC last year. I mean, you can pick one after the other, I think, on these. And there's something different about that mindset. And I will continue to go back to the way the last 4 games went. And I think they all have finished, and I'm going back to the bowl game last year, they all have turned out in a way that I think have bolstered that. I think that's what I'm basing my whole kind of mental assessment on, is they have won 4 games in ways that they haven't previously won those types of games. And I think that changes the way I feel looking at it. I think it's got to change the way that they feel behind those doors. Hopefully it's worked out to the degree that it existed, any of the, as Tim Miles called it, hexing and vexing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. that went on.
There are a lot of questions about both of these teams that they hope to see some answers to on Saturday. But, sometimes it does come down to, just a couple of players, just a couple of plays in a game like this. And I really think the advantage that Nebraska has is they have a quarterback who has played a season's worth more of games than Bryce Underwood. Does it worry me that Bryce Underwood's already had a road test this year in a hostile environment? Yeah, of course it does. Maybe they learned something from that. But at the same time, this is also the first conference game. And we like to think that, when we get into conference play, that things are just a little different, right? The familiarity breeds contempt. And so while I don't dismiss Oklahoma at all, it's different now because Now it's about the conference. Now it's about, trying to position yourself in the right way to put yourself in a great spot at the end of the season to maybe be in a playoff. And I'm not saying the winner of this game tomorrow is going to be in the playoff, but there's just a different mindset that comes with conference football. And I really think that right now, today, Dylan Raiola gives Nebraska an edge that Michigan doesn't have yet with Bryce Underwood. Now, maybe tomorrow Bryce Underwood has a big breakout game. It's certainly possible. But I tend to think that in moments like this, you lean on experience. And what I've seen out of Dylan this season, he has definitely taken that next step. Yeah. And now tomorrow's a chance to really solidify what that step means. He doesn't have to play perfect tomorrow. But I think if he plays the way he has played so far this year, outside of a complete collapse everywhere else, I think Nebraska's in a great position to win.
Yeah, when's the last time in a game like this you felt like Nebraska had the quarterback edge? I mean, it hasn't been in the Matt Rule era. Last year Dylan was a freshman and was still inexperienced. And you also look back at Dylan's growth curve last year. It's not like he figured it out after one road game. So, while there is the valid fear that, hey, maybe all it took for Underwood was to play on the road once, at the same time, it would seem that what we saw at Oklahoma is kind of the same neighborhood he's going to be in here in this game against Nebraska. And so, and you're right, Dylan is playing at such a high level. I mean, he's been efficient. He hasn't turned the ball over. He's answered the big play question against weak competition, to be sure, but he's just had this team, this offense running well. And you think about Big Ten football, how many big plays are you really going to get, against a Michigan secondary, against a Penn State secondary, whatever. So it's about being accurate. It's about managing the offense. It's about continuing, as Dana Holgerson says, put the ball in play. Mm-hmm. And to all of that, Dylan Raiola has done that about as well as he can do it.
Yeah, if you look at the edges, and as you said, the edge that Nebraska might have is Dylan Raiola. The other one I think that they've got in this game is that they, again, being aware of the competition, and you feel like you got to say that every time. Mm-hmm. But the Nebraska pass defense has been outstanding. Teams have not been able to pass the ball on Nebraska
without a pass rush.
Yes. And that's
themselves.
That's what I was going to get to. If Nebraska can figure out a way to put Underwood regularly under pressure, I really like how this game can go, because you're exactly right, John. They've done that essentially with very little pass rush, with not a lot of sacks, not a ton of pressures. They had a few more last week against a physically overmatched team, but that is where they've been really, really good. And so the question is, right, if Michigan, is Michigan going to be able to run the ball on Nebraska with one of the best running backs in the nation statistically right now, and a quarterback, obviously, that can run it as well? That's the question. Show me Michigan's yards per carry rushing after this is all over, and I'll be able to tell you, I think, whether or not Nebraska wins this game.
And that's one of the big questions that we have about this year's team is, can they stop the run? Now, the key, I think, is going to be, you're going to load the box. You're going to make Underwood beat you with his arm. And you're going to lean on the strength of your defense, which is your secondary, to stay on those receivers. Michigan's got questions about their receivers right now. We talked to Austin Meek yesterday, who covers the Wolverines for The Athletic, and he said, yeah, there's a lot of questions about Michigan's receivers, about the ability to gain separation, about the ability to get open, things that we talked about in Nebraska last year. Well, if the secondary is able to do its job, that allows everybody else up front to be free to get their rush lanes protected. The pathway I see to a Michigan victory, obviously, is if they're able to run the ball. If they're able to run a ball against the loaded box, well, so be it. You tip your hat to them and you move on. But I think it is a real key, because we saw Underwood start to do this last week against Central Michigan, is you got to make sure as you're rushing, as you're pressuring, that you cut off every exit angle. A lot of times you'll see quarterbacks step up and they see a lane. That's what we saw with Sorsby. He was able to rush through the middle. Obviously, you've got to protect that, but you've also got to be mindful. I think this is a very important game for guys like Nwaneri, for McCullough, to make sure as they are rushing that they're still they're not allowing for those escape routes around the edges. Oklahoma did that perfectly. Underwood really had no escape lanes because those are the types of things. And while you can't sustain an entire game on quarterback scrambles, those are the types of things that can turn big losses into big gains and then drive momentum. Because I think this can be a close game, even though I famously predicted a 2-score win back in the summer. Maybe that was a little too arrogant. I don't know. But it's going to be the mitigation of leaky yards and big plays that should have gone one way going another. So those are a lot of the keys to I see being a victory. And if they can do that, I think Dylan and the offense will be able to take care of the rest and pull this one out.
Yeah, Underwood's not going to beat you running the ball. I mean, you need him. You need to make life difficult on him throwing the ball. I think it would be very, and we'll see what John Butler does as the defensive coordinator. I think you got to get some heat on him early. Yeah. I mean, I think you got to blitz him early. I think you've got to hit him early, and then you pack the box and you have guys bumping up and down and on the defensive line, and your linebackers showing blitz, and then you can play all sorts of tricks on him the rest of the game. But I think early on, you've got to come after him. You've got to establish the early tempo, engage the crowd, get them believing as well. And then that neutralizes Justice Haynes, because look, flat out, if Michigan is able to run Haynes, Nebraska's in trouble. Well, if you get down early, you're less inclined to run him. So I think the first series or two are just utterly critical.
I agree.
Get a pass rush on him. Do what you have to do. Blitz him. I think you take the risk of him running it because he's not going to win this game rushing for 120 yards. So go at him, get him afraid of being in the pocket, and take your chances.
Yeah, you're right. I think the possibility of a fast start for Nebraska is pretty enticing in this one, not only because of where it might put Michigan's offense, that may not be a completely well. The other thing about it is just I can't imagine what it'll feel like in there if this fan base gets, for the first time in a while, some true kind of belief in this team.
Dare I say Colorado last year?
Yeah, I guess that's probably the best comparison, right?
Sure, and they got off to a lightning fast start.
And I think it will do, man, I think that's just something we haven't seen a lot of, with the exception of that Colorado game, if they can do that. On the other side of the ball, on Nebraska's offense, we already talked about Dylan Raiola, but man, you talk about an opportunity here. If Emmett Johnson in this game can put together, a really good game, give Nebraska, because he's going to get a gazillion opportunities in this game. I think we all know that, right?
Yeah.
Rushing, receiving, he is going to get a lot of opportunities. Obviously, if he has success, that is going to bode very well for Nebraska's offense during the course of this game, combined with Dylan Raiola. But man, you talk an opportunity to, if he's the best running back in this game, all of a sudden, just his stock, he becomes a star. Sure. Like he does. I'm not trying to exaggerate it or anything like that, but he's already up there on the charts, on the statistical lists. And of course that'll happen with Dylan Raiola, and he's going to be the spotlight in this game. But I don't think there's a bigger opportunity for anyone kind of where they are in their career in this game than Emmett Johnson, if he has a huge game in this one.
And while I don't place a lot of hope that he rushes for 125 yards or in this game,
I wouldn't think so.
His role to me is going to be to just keep that running game a threat, right?
Yeah.
I think Nebraska can win this game kind of like in an NFL style, where you're not averaging 6-7 yards a carry, but if you're averaging 4.5 yards a carry and just keeping the defense honest enough, then you lean on your quarterback. The other part that's really, really important is his pass protection. Ooh, he's the best on the team. Michigan's going to try to confuse Dylan. And while Dylan has, they've said he's improved in his pre-snap reads and changing protections, there's going to be times where he's going to guess wrong. And it's that back in the backfield that's going to, hit that middle linebacker or get that guy on the twist and give Dillon that extra split second to either get rid of the football or find an open receiver. Because I think Michigan is going to do kind of similar to what we think Nebraska is going to do to Underwood is they're going to try to pressure. That's what Wink Martindale does. They tried to do it a lot against John Mateer and Oklahoma. Mateer was able to kind of escape around. Dillon's not going to be a John Mateer in this game, but if Emmett can do his job in the backfield and give him that just little bit of extra time, I think he'll be able to find open guys down the field.
I still can't believe the guy that hosted Tic-Tac-Doe is that good of a defensive court. I wouldn't have guessed it, I guess.
I mean, he hosted a game show. He knew all the answers to those questions.
Right.
He's a smart guy.
All right. I found myself fired up now. Here we are. Okay, that's what I needed. I was hitting the coffee pretty hard. Now I got what I need. We're going to take a break right now. We're going to get into the Friday Husker Tailgate sound off. Nate's captured sound from coaches, players, talking about this week. We will go back over those, discuss them, and more coming up after this. You are listening to the Friday Husker Tailgate. It's a big game eve right here on KLIN.
When you're thinking Huskers, think 1499.3 KLIN.
At Pemberley.
Which quarter, how much time remaining. Your keyword today is Woodson, as in Charles Woodson. Woodson, Woodson, Woodson. And so go ahead and text that in. Sorry if you have autocorrect issues. Woodson. you'll want that in your phone anyway to be able to use sometimes.
That was the guy who stole the Heisman from Grant Wistrom, right?
Yes. You know what? It was nice of him to wear Michigan's final ranking on his jersey.
Hi-yo.
Anyway, the guesses so far. We got another third quarter guess yesterday on Drive Time Lincolns. We have 2 guesses that the final score will be in the third quarter. One from Midtown Dave with 3:33 left. Rob says third quarter with 2:48 left. Really,
is everyone thinking of last year's Colorado game?
Yeah, maybe that might be nice if it's a 2-score game at that point. Then we got several guesses in the fourth. Yankee Hill Doug says 450. Husker Nancy says 242. Sluggo says 139. Joe says 3 seconds left in regulation. Woo. Tammy says 3 minutes and 28 seconds left in the fourth quarter. And then Bill has picked overtime, which we said he could somebody could pick.
That's actually a smart call.
So he's got overtime there on that one.
So it sounds like there's a lot of stuff open early fourth quarter.
Yeah, there's the latest, the earliest fourth quarter pick is 450. Yankee Hill Doug has 450. So, yeah, anything that's a 10-minute, 10-second period.
That's a lot of time.
And then first 3 minutes of the third quarter open as well.
Because you expect, by 8 minutes to go, Nebraska will have the third teamers in.
Yeah.
What if Gramstead pops a late touchdown, though? Keep that in mind. That you're going to want to factor that into. Obviously.
What are you going to be? I mean, first of all, we know what you're going to be like when he eventually does something that helps the team score, but what if it happens in this game?
If Gramstead,
will you explode?
The first thing I would do, I told Nate about this yesterday, is I will Facebook message my friend Jordan Spieth's caddy, Michael Greller, who went to Northwestern College like Jalen Gramstead and I did, who is a big Michigan fan. In fact, I messaged him yesterday and offered a bet. I told him I'd give him a signed microphone if Michigan wins. And so I want to see if he's offered. Nope, nothing yet. Wow, he hasn't read it. The PGA Tour's off this week. Yeah. And he's not even responding to his messages.
I thought Jordan Spieth didn't he go to Texas?
He did, but his caddy.
Oh, okay.
His caddy.
Oh, his caddy's okay.
His caddy.
So Spieth's not a Michigan guy.
No, he's a Texas guy.
Okay.
No, it's his caddy.
It's just the caddy.
Who I was my dorm mate in college. So in any case, but that would be amazing. So real quick, when we just look at the forecast, guys, it's looking real nice for the weather for the game. The rain there's chances of rain this afternoon, this evening, overnight hours, but it really tapers off as we get into the late morning on Saturday. And by the time you get to kickoff, you're looking at just a 5% chance of rain. You are looking at partly sunny skies with temperatures at kickoff about 74 degrees.
About 20 degrees cooler than it was last week.
Yeah, 74 degrees, just a little bit of wind out of the south. Maybe some nice clouds out there, so nobody's all that much in the sun. It could be a great weather day for football if the rain diminishes like it looks like it is.
Maybe that sun will find the perfect spot between a couple of clouds and light up that black sideline, and Michigan spontaneously combusts.
There we go.
Yeah.
Nate, what do you want to? What do you got? What are your favorite clips from this week?
Well, let's start with this. Of course, the atmosphere, the opportunity. Is something we talked a lot about. Matt Rule was asked about the excitement and the atmosphere around this game yesterday.
We very much never want to make one game bigger than the other in terms of the football part of it, but in terms of, as I've said a couple times, like bringing excitement to Lincoln and having people be excited. I mean, like last year's Colorado game to me was an iconic moment that I hope, someday my kids are talking about. Remember that time, being at Wisconsin last year, beating them for the first time, and we were going to go to a bowl game. That was an amazing moment for so many people. I can't tell you how many people for the first 2 years I was here talked about students. Coach, I came back for another year. I just want to go to a bowl game, please. I don't care where it is. Just get us to a bowl game. So you want to, from a global perspective, as you represent the university in the ways in which you do, certainly we don't represent them academically, but when people turn on the brand, I want them to see excitement. I want them to see an amazing fan base. I want them to see a rocking stadium. I want them to see a state united behind a team. And those are all the things that we have. I want them to see elite facilities, elite players. And then I want you to see a football team that plays the game the right way. So I don't want to minimize the excitement of having a ranked team come here for the first game. I don't want to minimize the excitement. I mean, I'm excited about it. Like, this is why you came to Nebraska, to play these games. Last week was fun. And for a lot of guys, that was, they don't get a chance to play very often, but they work really hard. That was their chance to play. That's why we were so locked in at halftime. Those weren't we released a couple speeches, and I just got asked about it on the TV show. Those weren't pre-games. Those were halftimes because we wanted to get everyone in the game. And so that was important. But now this is why you came to Nebraska. And we had a vision of being a program that would be relevant nationally not for our history only, but for what we're doing right now. And so through 3 games we'll see, you got to play. But I'm excited. I'm excited to play in the Big Ten, but I'll be just as excited 2 weeks from now and 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now. I just personally believe at the University of Nebraska, every game is a big game because we're playing in it. And as soon as we all have that mindset in the locker room and in the building, then we'll be awesome.
So he's trying to keep everything at arm's length.
He kind of went every direction.
Yeah, you did.
He's got to. What you don't want again is what that UCLA game felt like later in the year, right? Where that's not a big game. But I mean, listen, if you're a normal person, why lie, right? It's a big game. It's a big game. Michigan comes in after winning a national championship 2 years ago, and these two programs having a bit of history, and Nebraska, getting kind of a spotlight game like this. We've all been looking at it forever. It would be ridiculous to act like there isn't something about this game. And listen, it is okay to be motivated and excited because of who's across the field from you. And this program for far too long has shied away from doing that. That's part of football. That's part of being motivated. So he wasn't necessarily saying that exactly, but I guarantee behind closed doors, he's saying those sorts of things.
Yeah, you don't want to say anything that, fires up the other team, right? But he's right there at the very end. We want to believe that every time we play, it is a big game.
Right.
And it used to be. I mean, when Nebraska was really rolling, it may have not felt like, Kansas may have not felt like a big game to us, but to them, it was everything because they had a chance to, beat Nebraska. So, you're trying to get to that point. So, yeah, he did a pretty good job there of balancing, the reality with what, he wants to also put out there in the public. And that is not to over hype this game, but he knows it. I mean, you expect Bud Crawford's going to be here, Husker Vision's going to have all their bells and whistles ready to go. It'll feel like a big game. Even if Michigan doesn't show up, it'll feel like a big game.
Yes.
I kind of like this vision he's sort of casting too about where he wants Nebraska to be. It sounds different this year when he talks about it, right? He's talking about he's talked about it before this year, right? This is a place we don't want people that are going to want to come to play us, right? They don't want to come and play us anymore. And our games are big because we're in them and people see it and everything looks cool, amazing, facilities look great, all of those things. He's talking about getting back to the top tier of college football,
right?
Like and those are not, I mean, he said those things, but he's saying them in detail now in a way that makes you believe he's got a real vision for that. And again, if you can start getting some wins and get people to believe in that vision that he's casting, that's going to feel like a whole new world.
No doubt. So. And this is the sort of game that if that's where you're going, you win because you're basically equal talent wise. You're basically equal, for what it's worth tradition wise. This is a big helmet game. Whether or not Michigan ends up being good this year, that'll be a win that they show on the graphics and go, well, Nebraska beat Michigan this year. And it'll get some national juice. And in college football, perception is reality. And if people perceive you as a great program, you are a great program because the great players will come to you.
Yeah. Yep. All right. What else we got, Nate?
Well, thinking a little bit about the X's and O's of this game, and it's interesting the Nebraska special teams have been such a point of struggle the last decade. Could Nebraska have a little edge there? Matt Rule talking about the Husker special team.
I think when you're playing in the weather that we're facing, you're playing in cold games late in the year, wind games in our stadium. The ability to flip the field and all that matters. Early in the season, teams are scoring 50, 60, 70 points. As the year goes on, the games trend down, especially as the weather becomes impacted. And so the ability to punt the ball down and make someone drive the length of the field, the ability to get a good return and flip the field, I think are important. We've played well so far. There's some areas that we have to be better at, kicking the ball off, and the opponent's starting field position is a key one. Our opponent has an elite kickoff return team, or a really good kickoff return team. So, that'll be a really good story to watch. We haven't punted in a couple games, so we'll have to see how far we've come along with that. If we call on Archie, so we haven't kicked a field goal in quite some time, So I think there's some things, but we've been practicing, we've been working. Those guys are doing a great job. Eck obviously does a great job. Brett Maher, who went into the Hall of Fame last week here, has done a great job. And so, we'll just have to play it out. It's not any one play is not going to win or lose the game. So, we're just kind of taking the approach of, hey, let's throw everything we have at him.
He was talking in general about Big Ten football, but, even in this game particularly, I would imagine that this is a lower scoring environment than, even two equivalent teams playing out of conference. I mean, the whole character of the Big Ten is field position and pound away. But, there's no conversation about field goals and extra points right now.
Yeah.
You feel very confident there. As far as kickoffs, if it feels like they really want John Hull or Tristan Alvano to do that job because they've continued to give those guys chances. Look, if they had to, I think Kyle Keenan could do it and do it for the whole game, and they'd be just fine. But you feel like those hidden yards that Nebraska has lost out on or given up over the last few years, they're going to get moving forward.
It's weird. There's been 3 weeks without a punt. So but yet here we are. And all of a sudden that's at some point is going to come back, and that's going to be significant. Remember how big that was in the Cincinnati game.
Sure.
And it's, we've all talked about the fact that Archie went 2 weeks without playing when his parents were here. He's going to get his chances in this game to factor into this one, I think, significantly.
I think this is an opportunity for Nebraska to have an edge in special teams, which I know sounds ridiculous given the last few years. But based on what we've seen, Michigan, their field goal kicker, who was pretty good last year, missed a chippy against Oklahoma. He's missed a couple already this year. The good news is, while Kyle Kunanen has not kicked a pressure field goal in the stadium, the weather, as you mentioned earlier, is going to be pretty neutral, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't have to worry about swirling winds or anything like that. Sure, Archie hasn't punted yet in competition in the stadium, but you trust, he is a kicker. He knows what he's doing, and I would assume that he's going to do a pretty good job. I think Nebraska could have, it's situations like this, and Rule talked about at the beginning of that clip. You pin a team down at the end of the field, and you keep them down there. Even if Nebraska starts slow, field position is your friend.
Yep.
And it can help start momentum by, pinning them back in the end zone, maybe getting a safety, or at least forcing them to kick it back to you and you get the ball in plus territory. There's a chance here for special teams to be a real ally and an asset for Nebraska. And that can be a difference either in a slow starting game or in a game that's tight late.
Ja'Cory Barney is going to change a game at some point with a punt return.
Yes, he is.
I don't know when. I don't know if it'll be this week, but at some point, I think he will. He's got too much electricity when he runs not to. So that'd be huge if that factored in this week.
No doubt. That was the name that was on my mind was Ja'Cory Barney. He's going to break one, and he's at least going to help you. I mean, Mike Eckler talked about this in preseason. At least get us essentially a first down to start with on a punt return, 10 yards. I think he can do that.
Yep. All right. What else we got, Nate? Couple more.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. And Deshaun Singleton has had such a critical role with this team, and he's going to be huge in this game. Thinking about, he's a great defensive back, but he's also a guy that's going to be very important in stopping the run. And here's Matt Rule on Deshaun Singleton.
Yeah, Deshaun's done a great job. He's playing elite football. He's significantly improved his tackling. And he was always a good tackler, but when you're in the middle, he moved to the kind of the middle of the field as opposed to where he was before in the boundary. And so you end up in, when you're in the middle of the field, you come downhill, you've got 53 and a third yards for the guy to work. And in the offseason, in the fall camp, I showed him some of those plays from last year. Like, here's things that you can improve upon. He plays man to man. He'll play 3 in the slot. Some people try to, we'll try to get speed on the safeties, and he's done a great job of that. He's an elite athlete. And so he's a great leader, tremendous story, of him getting here. So I'm glad he got the extra year because of the junior college injunction. I thought it was wrong when he didn't get the year back for that one play. But I think there were, there's other reasons, I guess, but happy he got it and glad it worked out.
Yeah, he's going to be huge. I mean, he's sort of the X factor for Nebraska defensively to be able to continue to commit extra resources to slow down Haynes and the Michigan run game. while still not opening things up for Underwood.
Yeah. Singleton's been really solid tackling, and man, that's been refreshing. That's all I have to say. It's been so nice to see the way that he's tackled.
And assuming that the secondary can do their job, that's going to free him up to, fill run gaps and do things, of that
He's
nature.
gonna have to
make those tackles because Justice Haynes, Oklahoma had him bottled up for 2 quarters, and then the first play of the second half, he popped a big one. You don't want that in this game.
Yep.
He's got 3 long runs this year. Great running backs are going to get there somehow. You just want to make sure that, a 70-yard run or a 10-yard run doesn't become a 70-yard
One
run.
broken tackle can do that.
Yes, it can.
Too.
And he can break tackles.
Yep.
No doubt.
Yep, for sure. All right, what else we got, Nate?
Well, let's talk about one other issue that's been around for Nebraska, and that's scoring touchdowns in the red zone. The Huskers in the 60s in terms of converting red zone trips into touchdowns. Dana Holgerson talked about that earlier this week.
Can't waste plays. That first drive where we didn't score, and I know that's a topic, and it's on Coach Rule's mind. We got to score when we're inside the 5. We do. I've talked about that since the day I got here. I showed him, the 4 Big Ten CFP teams last year were all 70 plus. That goal is 70. We've been 66, 66, and 64 or something like that, right? And so, which is a lot better than last year. Last year is in the 40s. Okay. And so we have took a step in that direction. We've worked it. We got to continue to work it. But we've just wasted a couple plays down there. Last week on 3rd and 5, the 2 receivers didn't get the check. I mean, that's just flat out unacceptable, and so we wasted that play, the play before that, we tried to a pass to Dane that we've worked we can't work it anymore. Okay. And he's just got to run that route a little bit more sudden. He got into him. The guy grabbed him, which if you get into him, the guy's going to grab you. So you got to be more sudden and get through that. So Dylan threw, I thought was a pretty good pass. Couldn't get to it. That's a waste of play. So, the other stops were later in the game. I probably would have called that a little bit differently if it would have been, our black team in there instead of our white team in there. No excuse. Everybody's got to have an opportunity to execute. They need to go in there and execute when they have that opportunity to play. Okay. But it's improved from last year. It's not what it needs to be for what our goal is. Okay. And so we just need to not waste plays and keep moving forward.
Yeah. So the big thing is if you get inside the 5, it's got to be 7. And it worries you a little bit that even Akron and Houston Christian were able to slow Nebraska down in goal-to-go situations. You got to cash that in because Michigan, it's just going to be tougher. And so much Big Ten football is eliminating losing. It's not giving the guy the big play where he takes it 60 yards for a touchdown. And if you can live to play another day, that's one more chance for the other guy to screw up. And so you're hopeful that they were able to iron out the small things, be locked in on the details. They've got to get that check. They've got to have the right blocking. You've got to execute what you're supposed to do. And the shorter the field gets, the more that's heightened.
Yeah, we can get into this more. I've got this in the morning drive. We can talk about it more than this kind of general topic, but there's been one key one in every game. And in the last 2 games, at least one key one in every game where they've gotten all the way down there and then couldn't pop it in. And it didn't end up mattering, but it was early in both of the, it was the first drive in the Houston Christian game. It was early drives against Akron. Right. One was a fumble. One was a 4 and out, or not a 4 and out, but a stop on a 4th down. And then against Cincinnati, you had a penalty that hurt one of those drives. And so, yeah, I mean, when you've got them every single game, it does seem like that, that it does. It seems like one of the things that I'm concerned about, and I can delve more into why I think it's an issue. But John, it's just it's something that they can't afford to do this week, obviously.
No, especially when you get down there in that deep red zone. And, you always wonder in games like this, do you have, something in the bag that you haven't shown yet this year?
Yeah.
And that certainly is a possibility, but you can't always rely on new wrinkles, new tricks. Sometimes you just got to win with your best plays. And Nate mentioned it earlier. I mean, the checks, the one play last week against Houston Christian, 2 receivers missed a check. Sometimes it can be, we look at, missed opportunities and we look at the defense. What did the defense do? Well, in many cases, the offense stops themselves.
Mhm.
And when not all 11 are on the same page and they don't, have all the exact same instructions, it can, as Dana said, waste a play. You don't want to waste a play down there. So everyone has to be really, really focused on making sure that those things don't happen.
All right, let's grab a break right now. We'll take a look at additional news, any injuries affecting this game coming up next. 6:54. It's a Friday Husker Tailgate on KLIN.
When you're thinking Welcome back to the Friday Husker Tailgate on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLI.
Then we'll take a break for the top of the hour here very soon. We'll come back and give away helmet stickers. Nate, real quick, not a lot of injury news here for Nebraska. Pretty good place to be in right now. Anything to be aware of here from Thursday?
Well, it sounded as if Mekhi Nelson is full go for the game on Saturday. How much of a role he has, we shall see, because, of course, we expect Emmett Johnson left, right, and up the middle. Really no update on Malcolm Hartzog, but the sense I've gotten is that that's a fairly minor injury to where, if he had to have played last week, he could have. But, with the opponent and with the opponent this week, he really wasn't needed. So.
Real quick on the Michigan side, Giovanni El-Hadi, he was hurt against Oklahoma, starting offensive lineman. Sounds like he's still out. But Michigan may get Rod Moore back, the safety, who has not played since the national championship game.
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah, he injured his knee back in March, the following off season, and hasn't been back. Now, how much effectiveness we'll have? I mean, It's his first game back. So
he was a key player, though, for that team.
He certainly was.
Yeah, so there you go. A couple of things, but not a whole lot, which is good. Pretty much full strength going into this game. 6:58 on KLIN.
For 3 to tie the game right. Will you? Betcha! Are you kidding me?
Think 1499.3 KLIN.
Noah takes a snap, fade route, back run to the end zone. Touchdown, Huskers! Isaiah Hunter with a Husker touchdown.
Who do you think you're fooling? Nobody's thinking about their job the day before a Husker game.
Backpedals the throw, blitz picked up. Harris went out deep right sideline. 50-50 ball. It's picked off. The black shirts with a dagger. Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick. Sails the night for the Big Red. Drifts back to throw, dumps it to an underneath crosser. Goody made the catch, got popped. Ball's loose, but they say incomplete.
This is the Friday Husker Tailgate with Jack Mitchell, Nate Rohr, John Bishop, and Kevin Suits on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Ah, yes. You know, the black shirts with the dagger that's starting to already start resonating in my head there as the early Kyle Crook signature call there in our intro here for the Friday Husker Tailgate. Hopefully some daggers on Saturday afternoon. Welcome back to the Friday Husker Tailgate. I'm Jack Mitchell with John Bishop, Nate Rohr, Kenny Larrabee doing our video producing today. Mark Vail in the KLIN newsroom. We got a lot to come on this huge game coming up Saturday. We are going to count down the 5 things we think you're going to be talking about this Husker weekend here in about 25 minutes. A little bit later in the show, Kevin Suits will join us. We'll take a deeper look at Michigan on and off the fields. Guys, I have some things you are not going to believe about Michigan and the mascot of the Wolverine, the use of the word of the mascot Wolverine. And so we'll delve into that, some things that will surprise you about that. Plus, take a look at them on the field as well. Plus, our picks coming up at the end of the show. But right now, guys, it is time to award our helmet stickers. Each of us has for whatever we see fit. And during the year, we keep track of which players get the most helmet stickers. Your leaderboard right now has Emmett Johnson in first place, leading the team with 5, 3 each for an Isaiah Hunter and Dylan Raiola, 2 for Ja'Cory Barney, and then 1 for Lindenmeyer, Petschak, Singleton, Sierra Wright, and Malcolm Hartzog. And so fairly evenly distributed so far. This, guys, now last week I was saying I wonder if we're going to give them all to the same players. This week, I could not decide. And it wasn't because there weren't good performances. It was just that there were a lot of similarly good performances. Yes, yeah. I thought we may not repeat anyone on this one. I'll be very fascinated to see how we do it. Nate, we've traditionally let you start. So why don't you go ahead? And if you have one if we have one that Nate has issued, then we'll pile on then at the same time. So.
Well, I'll go with the obvious one, and it's Dane Key. 4 catches, 104 yards, and a touchdown. You know, statistically, he'd been kind of quiet through the first 2 games, but it was because he was getting a lot of defensive attention and obviously opening things up for Hunter and also Ja'Cory Barney. So it was good that he was able to get his. And now you really have 3 wide receivers that you have to deal with Nebraska. So I'm going to go Dane Key. Anytime you get a 100-yard rusher, 100-yard receiver, 300-yard passer, you're elevated in my helmet sticker grading scale.
That's the first helmet sticker for Dane Key. First helmet sticker this year. All right, John, who you got?
Time for another first. I'm going to go with Quentin Ives.
Ooh.
Ives had 85 yards on 12 carries, led the team in rushing, averaged a robust 7.1 yards per carry. He's had 2, 20-plus yard touchdown runs this season. He had 1 against Houston Christian. I thought, you know what? It's time to spread the love out a little bit because we don't know if some of these guys are going to get another helmet sticker. That's a challenge to you, Quentin Ives. Get another helmet sticker. But I'm going to give you one for Saturday.
I also had Quentin Ives.
Oh, you got
we
2.
Had 2. So he has 2.
Now you got to get another one.
Well, now you get another one right now.
3.
Oh,
wow.
No.
So here's the thing. I mean, to build on what you said, John, it's not just that he was really productive. It also answers one of the biggest questions about Nebraska's offense. Who's going to be the number 2 running back? Perhaps most important, Emmett Johnson barely had to play.
Yeah.
And he absolutely did not have to play in the second half. And that luxury was granted by the fact that Quentin Ives was so productive. So the fact that Emmett Johnson's going to be full gas, and we talked about how important he's going to be is in part because Quentin Ives was so effective.
Yeah, I was impressed by Ives too. The thing about him though is I want to see him. Well, first of all, you look at the depth chart. I think Mekhi Nelson is still number 2 on the depth chart. And
they haven't changed the order.
And I don't know if they may not even mess. It may not represent much that depth chart.
It's too hard to change.
But I do wonder in this game now on Saturday is who's the first back they go to.
It's Ives. I think
it's Ives.
I
You
would think so.
And that makes sense to me too, because I also think he gives the biggest change up from what the other running backs bring. He is the most kind of different. He's a little bigger, right? And it doesn't quite bring the speed to the table that some of the other running backs might. But he also, Nebraska still hasn't really been in a kind of like a black and blue run the ball game yet.
That's true.
Like that's what I think Quentin Ives is for to some degree. And I know he's had the long touchdowns, but I don't think that is going to be,
that's not his forte.
That's not going to be the norm for him, right? It's kind of that Dante Dowdell role a little bit from last year would be what he's fulfilling. And so I actually see, oddly enough, I see a more of a role for him in this game than any of the games Nebraska's had so far. If it kind of turns into the game that we think it might be, which is low scoring, running the ball a lot, and so I think he could have a bigger role than maybe we're thinking of, but he's acquitted himself well in the chances that he's gotten. But I'd like to see him in I think what the role he'll really fit in perhaps in this game. All right, back to John.
I think I'm going to switch over to the defense here now. While I don't know how many helmet stickers he's going to get this year, the way he is talked about, it seems like he is one of the most valuable young players on the team. Rex Guthrie had a team high 6 tackles. One of those was for a loss. They really like these redshirt freshmen, Jones and Guthrie. And so I think I'm going to go with Rex Guthrie. You know, Matt Rule talked about it. I think it was last week that, one of the pro scouts that was in was like, hey, who's that 21? And Rule thought he was talking about Emmett Johnson. No, he was talking about Rex Guthrie. Really liked, his makeup. And, while I don't know what his, how big of an impact he'll have on this week's game, I think down the road, we're going to be talking a lot about Rex Guthrie in this year and years to come. But I'll throw one his way this week.
I didn't give him one, but just to add on to what you said, he played a ton. I mean, they gave I think it would have been Buford basically who he was spelling in that game. Guthrie was in the vast majority of the game. I think he led the team in tackles, didn't he?
Yeah, Guthrie did.
Led the team in tackles as well. I'm having a really hard time not thinking it's Philip Bland out there when I'm watching these games, but with number 21 back there,
from Colorado, no less.
Yeah, right.
Can it be Mike Brown?
I guess
Dare to Dream.
That's true. Mike Brown was 21 also. Mike Brown is at he's at an elite level.
Yeah, he's truly elite.
Yes, nothing against Rex or Philip Bland, but yes. But in any case, yeah, it's been interesting to see. One thing about that, John, is they're going to have to replace a ton in that defensive backfield.
And the future looks bright.
It
does. The future looks bright in a lot of those positions. Andrew Marshall had a big game, had 4 tackles. Dawson Merritt. Granted, we're moving to a different position here, but Dawson Merritt, I mean, that guy brings the thump.
There you go. I'm giving Dawson Merritt a helmet sticker. I am giving Dawson Merritt a helmet sticker. Like I've said, as always, they're subjective. They're whatever you want. And he was a guy who was out there making hits. Remember the old NFL Crunch Course videos, John? The old VHSs? Yeah. Dawson Merritt had a couple of them in that game where I was like, ooh, that's just a solid hit. I liked the hitting from him. I know he was in as kind of a backup, but I think he's played in all 3 games, and I was impressed by him, what I've seen so far. And in my next helmet sticker, spoiler, is going to be for a play like that too. But there was something about that last game, Houston Christian, where there were the defensive the kind of highlights that they put on the video board when they're doing the black shirt pump up thing, and then they put the sound effects in. It's like
slobber knockers.
There were 12 of those in that game, and I kind of miss those. Yeah. It was really nice.
Well, it's not politically correct anymore,
I don't know.
CTE and all that other stuff.
I guess so, but I thought
they were good hits. Good, clean hits.
So I'm giving Dawson Merritt 1. All right, your last one, Nate.
Well, John kind of foreshadowed your most recent helmet sticker, he also foreshadowed my last helmet sticker, and it goes to Andrew Marshall. 5 tackles, had a tackle for loss. And again, on the more global perspective, he's played really well on the other side of Sierra Wright. And it's great to have a corner in Sierra Wright where you basically sign one part of the field away. How's the other guy do? Because they're going to throw at him a lot. Well, Marshall's been really good through 3 games. So I will give him a helmet sticker. And statistically, it stacks up. I mean, 5 tackles is pretty good. Yeah. It was second on the team. He had a tackle for loss as a defensive back. So, yeah, Marshall.
And how about, this is a stat that we don't talk about it as much, but those yards after the catch. Yes, it's hard to have a lot of yards after the catch when you're not giving up a lot of yards. But of the 67 receiving yards, they only had 6 yards after the catch. By comparison, Nebraska had 176 of their 362 receiving yards after the catch.
Wow.
And, so even if you're throwing at somebody, as long as if it's short passes or if you're, stopping that guy in his tracks, you're still getting the job done.
Yeah. I believe Nebraska it's the number 1 pass defense by yards in the country right now. So that's saying something about that defensive backfield, whoever the opponents have been. All right, John, your next one.
I'm doing this under pressure because it's a growing hive. This group of fans, apparently there were things said or either in the stands or on social media. That there was talk that, hey, maybe this guy should be replacing Dylan.
Whoa.
So to satisfy the TJ Lateef hive, who we have dubbed the Teefies. TJ Lateef, 5 for 5, 126 through the air and a touchdown, including 15 yards rushing and a touchdown rushing. I give this out because I don't want at the end of the season the Teefies to say, where's his helmet sticker? So he's going to get one this week.
He does get one. I considered him for my last one, but I'm kind of a one-trick pony this week. There was just something about the style with which the defense played this game, and this last one could have went to a number of players who made just 1 or 2 plays, but it was the way that they made them. And for this one, I'm giving, again, really based on one play, Marcus Watson-Trent, because he made one of the highlight reel sacks of all time, I thought, or at least of the last several years, with his sort of Superman diving into the quarterback in the first quarter sack against Houston. And I felt bad for that offensive line.
It was at that point where you knew the game was over.
That was it was like, wow. That was sort of the clear indicator of the athletic overmatch that was happening on the front lines in that game. But, I always kind of, when he came in from Georgia Southern, I heard about his tackle numbers, and I just kind of thought of him as, stereotyped him as, the middle linebacker who's just racking up tackle numbers, solid tackler, makes good on fundamentals, but he showed some real athleticism. I'm excited still to see what he can do this year. He's not, other than that play, and I'm not saying he's played poorly, but he hasn't been someone who, we haven't given him a helmet sticker before or anything,
He's been kind of quiet.
Yeah. And he was Nate's second pick overall in the
I thought he'd have more tackles, frankly.
Yeah.
Could be a big game for him.
And again, most of these guys have only, they've only played one full game here at this point, and only parts of other ones. I did consider McCullough, again, looks the part on there too. I thought he looked really good. Nwaneri, he had the touchdown. I don't think he had any tackles, but he had the touchdown, which was hilarious in multiple ways. Number one, I could hear while he was running right in front of me, I could hear my father yelling at Mickey Joseph for holding the ball out in front of him as McCullough held it out, and the Don Beebe on Leon Lett was coming behind him.
Yes.
You saw it so in slow motion happening. Just didn't get to him. He took the swipe after he passed the end zone, falls into the chain link fence there, and McCullough just barks at him after it was over. I don't know. The whole thing was just very funny to me. And then Nwaneri said that was his first ever touchdown in football.
Well,
because he's not played for a long time, and so didn't. I mean, he probably could have been in middle school a great wide receiver or a tight end, but he wasn't playing. So there you go. So the standings now. Everyone. Well, we got Emma Johnson still at first with 5. Hunter and Raiola still tied at second with 3, but they're joined by Quentin Ives, tied for second place. Now with
take a
3.
picture. Take a picture.
Ja'Cory Barney with 2, and then a whole big group tied at 1. Linda Meyer, Petshaw, Key, Guthrie, Merritt, Marshall, Lateef, Watson, Trent, Singleton, Sierra Wright, and Hartzog. Interesting how many different people we've got on this list so far this year. That's probably a function of what those last 2 games were like. But by the way, in terms of our first round picks, everyone's got one. The only second round pick that hasn't gotten one yet is yours, John, with not Sierra Wright, but the other Wright on
Javen
defense. Javen Wright. Yes.
Well, there's still time.
Yep.
There's still time.
There you go. All right. We're going to take a break. We're going to get a little early into the 5 things we're going to be talking about this Husker weekend, but it's okay because I think there are going to be some significant discussions here. There's a lot to get into. There's a lot to talk about this Husker weekend. So we will do that coming up next. You listen to the Friday Husker Tailgate on the radio, on the internet, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're watching or listening to us. Thanks for doing that. We'll be back after this on KLIN.
When you're thinking Huskers,
That swung on it, drilled towards right field, towards the angling, towards the waterfall, and splashed down.
think 1499.3 KLIN. topics to get you going for game day. It's a special Friday Husker Tailgate edition of the Morning Drive, presented by Stonebridge Insurance and Wealth Management on Lincoln's Husker Radio 99.3 KLIS.
All right, it is time to count them down with 5 things we think you're going to be talking about this Husker weekend, and it is time to delve into those right now. So without any further ado, let's get it going with
number 5.
Among the most interesting storylines in this game is the arrival in Lincoln of arguably the most expensive recruit of all time, Bryce Underwood, the 12 plus 15, I don't know for sure, $1 million man that Larry Ellison, one of the richest men in the world, richest people in the world, his wife, Jolyn Zhu, a 30-something Michigan grad, by the way, Larry Ellison is 80, Tom Brady and Dave Portnoy all helped flip from LSU to Michigan. By the way, that whole story is just kind of gross. Anyway, is it too early to say the pressure is on him to perform on Saturday, given all that? I mean,
isn't it ironic that, Michigan gets their quarterback because, some rich, billionaire wants to give his, 50-year younger wife a birthday present, while Nebraska nearly lost its quarterback because the coach that was recruiting him had too many margaritas.
Oh, wow.
But
Hey.
I digress. The pressure is certainly there. Absolutely. Michigan needs Underwood to perform well in this game to win. That's a lot to put on a young freshman. Listen, the talent is there. He's got great arm talent. He can move on the run, or he can move and throw. So he can throw on the run. We saw against Oklahoma, every time OU blitzed, it turned into something positive. It was either a pressure, it was a sack, it was an incomplete pass. I think that's what Nebraska is going to do to him this week, because if you can pressure him and make things confusing. Dylan, that's what Dylan faced last year. Remember the Illinois game? Second half of the Illinois game, they lit him up. And you could tell Dylan was that was the 4th game of the season. This is the 4th game for Bryce Underwood. Now, I do think having that Oklahoma experience is going to help him, but there's no question Nebraska is going to make him beat them. They don't want Michigan to turn this into a running game where they would have the advantage. They want Underwood to have to beat them, which is what you need to do to a young quarterback. So if that's going to be the game plan, that means he's got to come through. So yes, to that point, the pressure is definitely on him to perform, because if he does not play well, Michigan does not win this game.
And Michigan drops to 2-2 on the year, and all of a sudden the ceiling on their season drops down pretty substantially. I mean, they're getting into a hole, and you pay 10 million, 12 million.
You got to start getting a return pretty quickly on that, right?
Yeah, I mean,
he's not going to be there for 4 years.
You think of the NFL as being not for long. Look, you expect Bryce Underwood to play 3 years there, right? Go pro after his 3rd year. Well, he's not going to have many games against ranked opponents on the road. And so he's already lost one. His coach isn't there. It's on him. And Nebraska needs to emphasize that point. One other thought, because of how this Nebraska team is built, you can put a lot on Nebraska's defensive backs to man up Michigan's receivers to where you can have more support to stop the run and really make this a, hey, Underwood, can you fit it in a tight window sort of game? I don't know that he can.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see him, right? Because 6'4", I mean, NFL all over him, the number 1 recruit in the nation. It'll be fast. And the whole story, by the way, of just the going to LSU, and then last winter, I mean, they got all the celebs, and they backed the truck up for a Michigan guy, right? Born in Detroit, went to Belleville for high school, and Division I state champ twice there, the national freshman of the year, national sophomore of the year. He's got every accolade possible in high school here at this point. But the question is, how quickly, and we were talking about this last year, how quickly do you expect a star freshman quarterback to be a star? What's reasonable, right?
Sure.
And again, it may not be reasonable to say anytime in his first season for almost anyone. And we kind of looked at this last year in terms of what freshmen had done that. Very few have. Some have, but very few have here at this point. Comes along with those kind of accolades, those kind of money, all of those things is exactly what you said, Nate. I mean, a second loss is going to start to have his critics.
Jack, when you look at, the successful first year, highly touted freshman quarterbacks, the ones that have had the best seasons had a really, really good support group around them. And I'm not saying Michigan's got bad players around Underwood, but there's a lot of questions about the offensive line. There's been some injuries up front. There's questions about their wide receivers. Their tight ends have been banged up. So you need that kind of support system to kind of jumpstart things and get it going. Yeah, sometimes your natural athletic ability can allow you to make plays where maybe plays aren't made, but you can't live on that. Right. You can't sustain a game plan on that. Earlier in the season, Sharon Moore said, we don't want him to be a running quarterback because we don't want him getting beat up out there. Last week he decided actually to turn him loose. Of the 8 runs he had, I believe 6 were on scrambles. I think that's where he's going to get his yards. I don't think, especially this early in the Big Ten season, they want to design a lot of runs for him. I think that's something they want to complement later on, but they don't want to subject him to those kind of hits this early in the season. So I think if Underwood does get runs tomorrow, it's going to be on scrambles. It's not going to be on design runs. So again, it's going to rely on his ability to read defenses and to be able to, find the hot routes and the blitz beaters, because I think Nebraska is going to try to heat him up on again and again and again, because the numbers are out there. When you put pressure in his face, he doesn't handle it very well, which is natural. It's not anything against him, but he's a freshman playing just his 4th college game.
John mentioned it, that Michigan doesn't want him running. And it strikes me when you think of freshman quarterbacks that succeed, and the one that jumped in my mind was Michael Vick. It's athletic ability. It's the fact that they're running around the field. It feels to me, and Underwood can run some, but it feels to me, and we saw this last year more extreme with Dylan Raiola, he's got the older guy skills. He's got can find the hole in the defense and read the defense. So he's going to be a terrific quarterback down the road, but it's not there yet. And just one road game and just 3 games in college, I don't think are enough to build them.
In their 3 games, and this was New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Central Michigan were their opponents, 46 for 80, 628 yards, 57.5 completion rate, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, sacked 3 times. So, the passing game hasn't been a significant, and Michigan hasn't needed it. Well, they didn't need it in their 3rd game. Right. The New Mexico game was still undoubted.
They needed it against Oklahoma, and honestly, there were a couple of times where he just threw it up, hoping that his receiver would make a play on one particular one that they did. But again, he didn't have a lot of time to think back there. And I think that's the key to beating him, especially early. Now, down the road, as he develops, as he gets more comfortable, as he begins to do the things that we've seen Dylan start to do, then, teams are going to have to get even more exotic. I don't think you have to get too exotic. You just got to come after him and get that ball out of his hands or make him make bad decisions.
And Nebraska's defense, some of the, Guarneri again, McCullough, those guys look the part of athletic, fast linebacker. They're skinny.
Lanky.
Skinny isn't the word.
They're lanky. They're
lanky.
They're athletic looking.
They look like basketball players.
Yes, they
especially those 2 guys that I mentioned. That means one of the reasons you have guys like that is to contain guys like Bryce Underwood and not let him, have athletic defense for an athletic quarterback there. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. All right, moving on with the morning drive.
Number 4.
Next on the list, hang tight as I scroll to my list. If there's one issue that's still popped up, we talked about this earlier for Nebraska, even its blowout wins, it's consistently scoring touchdowns when they've got the ball within the 10-yard line. Given the efficiency of the offense overall, why do you guys think this is such a persistent issue? We've already touched on this a little bit. We didn't go way in depth on it. Why do you think this keeps happening when Nebraska is so efficient everywhere else with their offense?
Well, I think the efficiency of Nebraska's offense is driven by the space of the field. I mean, there's just more real estate for Dylan Raiola and these wide receivers to work to find their way open. And while Emmett Johnson is a pretty good running back, he's not a 230-pound bowling ball that you can send between the tackles. And they really haven't had that big running back assert himself here in the early part of the season. And even at tight end, I mean, Luke Lindenmeyer is a good receiver, but he's not elite. He's not Thomas Fidone type a wide receiver playing tight end. So it's just a team that doesn't have a great jumbo package at this point, and where Raiola is a guy who needs some space to work. You're inside the 10, a lot of that space goes away.
Yeah. I think part of it is they don't have that running back who has that nose for the end zone, right? When I look at red zone struggles, and I watch a team every week, my team's the Rams, they struggle in the red zone, but there's one guy who they can go to in the red zone, and that's Kyron Williams. And Williams is about the same size as Emmett, but he just has that knack for finding the end zone. I don't think Emmett necessarily has that yet. The other part of it too is, finding good receiving targets. A lot of times you throw one up for the corner of the end zone, you let a bigger receiver go up and get it, or you use a tight end in these spots, or you run a lot of picked routes. We heard from Dana Holgerson earlier in the show about, a couple of receivers missed a call. And that may have been a spot where, you run an illegal pick and some guy, gets open. I think as more confidence comes between Dylan and his receivers, and as more confidence comes from Emmett Johnson, just having that nose for the end zone, I think some of these things will work themselves out. I hope that Nebraska doesn't have to rely on a lot of gimmicks. I hope they don't have to do anything real exotic when they get down into that deep red zone. They need to be able to do it in as many traditional ways as they can, but it's just those things of, having that perfect timing, having that perfect communication, and having that guy that go-to guy that you have, that when you get in the 5-yard line, this dude's getting the ball and this dude's going to score. Nebraska just doesn't have that yet.
Yeah, I think you're right that you want it to be the normal offense to rely on. You don't want to have to go to a gimmick. That said, if you've got someone, a quarterback with a ball in their hand who's a running threat, it seems so much easier at that point. Even if it's a Harburg situation or a Lateef, or a Lateef situation that people have mentioned. But on the other hand, to John's point, I don't think you want to do that either. Like, that's not sustainable.
No,
to be
because
continuing to do that.
Predictable.
Right.
Right.
Like, and they've done it with the quarterback sneaks with Harburg too. And I believe they put him in one short yardage situation against Cincinnati. They had him in as a tailback, right? They handed it off to him, if I recall.
I think that's
during the game on a third or fourth and short. But you're right. I mean, what I want to see is Lindenmeyer, right? And Emmett Johnson. I want to see Raiola to Lindenmeyer, and I want to see Emmett Johnson, or maybe Quentin Ives. I mean, I don't feel like that would be
that's not a gimmick.
I don't feel like that would be a gimmick, right?
No.
Maybe that's, maybe we see a little of that. But you're right. I mean, even shorter stories, they got to be able to run it in. They got to be able to.
I mean,
if you have 4 downs inside the 10, you got to be able to run it in.
Right. And you think about the Cincinnati game. How did they score their touchdowns? It was the Isaiah Hunter fade route. And it was the pass over the middle to Dane Keys. So right now, at least at this point, and the one unknown variable is, what have they held in the bag? What have they held back? And you guys are talking about you want to be able to score with your traditional offense. That's true down the road. Tomorrow, whatever it takes.
Okay, whatever. Yeah. So Yeah, and by the way, it's interesting you mentioned that Dane Key touchdown against Cincinnati. All of the things we've said, that was one of the best play calls and best executed plays all year.
Sure.
On that one. I mean, that worked to perfection. Every part of it. Sold the fake. Raiola, great play. Dane Key did exactly what he needed to do. It looked easy on that one.
It did.
They haven't had a lot of other ones where that happened, though. All right, moving on.
Number 3.
Michigan will be without their head coach, Sharon Moore, with noted cutoff T-shirt wearing coach Biff Poggi taking the reins. When you think about this game, John, how much do you see this as an advantage, if at all, for Nebraska, and why?
Keep in mind that last week, Moore was able to help with the game planning against Central Michigan, but as soon as midnight hit last Saturday on game day, he was out. So he has not been with the team all this week. I think that is probably where you're going to miss him more than on game day. Biff Poggi is, he's an experienced coach. He's been around the block. He loves Michigan. I think on game day, they'll be fine because that's when you lean on your coordinators to make the calls. And Poggi's there to, make some certain decisions. But I think on game day, they're going to lean on the coordinators. I think it's the stuff that's been put in the barn now where this team is going to miss Sharon Moore most. And, I'm sure we'll look back and we see things through a certain filter. I'm sure we'll look back on this game on Sunday and say, well, maybe there's an area where they missed him, or maybe this is an area where Michigan missed him. So I think that the places where this has an impact, that's already been done. Once we get to Saturday, I think they're going to be fine. I don't think this is as big a loss as losing, a real dominant presence on the sideline. And also remember, Michigan's been through this before several times with Jim Harbaugh. So This is a program that's got experience playing a game without its coach.
They have protocols in place that they've rehearsed many, many times.
If anything, they have to get used to the coach actually being on the sideline.
I mean, they've had 37 guys coach their team over the last 3 years. I coached the game in 2023. Let them realize that. For Michigan. But I mean, that's a weirdly good point. They've had so many games where they've had a coach suspended.
Yeah, but I will say that I mostly agree with John, but I do see little ways where it can make impacts. Obviously, timeout usage, go for it on 4th down as opposed to not. And then just making sure, I mean, there, especially if Michigan gets down early, who's the voice on the headset that says, look, boys, I know we're losing, but we got to stick with the run here. So I don't think it'll have a huge impact, mind you, but I do think it'll have a little impact.
Yeah, it's so funny that Biff Poggi, because he was a punchline. And listen, he's got an extensive coaching career. Was an assistant at Brown, Temple, the Citadel. Was an analyst at Michigan. Actually, his coaching resume isn't that impressive now that I'm looking at it, if I'm being honest. But he was. Let's see. He was the associate head coach at Michigan 2021, 2022. Then did the stint at Charlotte, and that's where he kind of became a meme.
Yes,
because he would, if you don't know what I'm talking about, he wore a T-shirt that had the sleeves cut off with the scissors, and then had the collar cut down at the chest when he was coaching the games.
Right.
Not
and this
practice.
isn't he's a larger man. But he's an older, larger man.
Yeah.
And there are certain things that, your body does as you get older where things sag a little bit more. And it was just I'm sure it was a good look for him 20 years ago.
At one point, I'm sure it was great.
Not so much today.
I'm sure it was.
And by the way, he's not allowed to do that at Michigan because, Michigan's a little more buttoned up. So, you won't see his arms, his bare arms on the sideline.
Yeah. So, I don't
wear caps and sleeves in this league.
That's
son.
what I wanted to know when the last time he was the head coach at Charlotte.
Yep.
If he had been a head coach other than that, though.
He was a successful high school
really
head
successful
coach.
high school
St.
coach.
Francis Academy in Baltimore.
Dana Holgerson mentioned that I believe one of his sons even played for him.
Correct.
And so he was a really good high school coach, but hey, that's a stretch to the college.
At Gilman School in Maryland, he was there for 20 years.
Yeah.
From 96 to 2015 before he became an analyst at Michigan for the first time in 2016. So this is his third stint at Michigan, by the way. He's come back and left 3 times now there, which is interesting as well. So in any case, yeah, we will see his head coaching record overall in college, 7-16.
Not great.
Yep. Overall, just pointing it out, just saying. All right, moving on.
Number 2.
If Nebraska can do this and pull off the win, it's arguably going to put this program in the best place it's been for the time being in over a decade. So let's allow ourselves to dream a little bit. If you do that, what are the implications of a 4-0 Nebraska going into a bye week that might feel like this program and fan base haven't really experienced in a long time? What does the next 2 weeks feel like if they win this game?
I mean, there's going to be playoff talk. There's going to be,
baby.
You'd be able to squint and see a possibility of playing for the Big Ten championship. That's that will be the thing that then Matt Rule has to address, and that is, hey, don't get too high on yourselves here.
Yeah,
because that's an extra week of people, talking it up. I still think it's a good thing that Nebraska's got the idle week coming up after this game, because I think you're going to expend a lot of energy, and it's going to be a very physical game. It always is with Michigan. So I think you need that extra recovery time. But it will also allow for imaginations to run wild, and the possibility of, listen, for Nebraska to get into the playoff, I think that it's a minimum of 10 wins.
Mm-hmm.
And 10 wins is on the table if they beat Michigan, because there'll be 2 games left. Well, 1 game left for sure where they will not be favored, and that'll be Penn State. USC is the other questionable one, but if you split those games and take care of the rest, you're sitting in a really good spot. Now, unfortunately, I think Nebraska's schedule is not particularly good. So I think Nebraska
strength of
schedule-wise, based on how things have gone so far. But they could be like an Indiana was last year, where you catch just the right draw of Big Ten teams. And while you don't have a lot to lean on in your non-conference, I think the Nebraska name will resonate louder than Indiana did. And I personally think the SEC is going to cannibalize itself. I think this could be another 3 playoff year for the SEC, because I think those teams are going to beat the crud out of each other. So, yeah, I mean, playoffs will be on the table. The conversation will be on the table if they win this game, and we'll have an extra week to discuss it.
Yeah, the big battle for Matt Rule will be trying to limit the diet of rat poison the boys take in the week off. I mean, we just haven't had the chance to dream around here in a while.
We haven't had rat poison around here for a long time. I kind of miss rat poison.
Yeah, by
as
the
a
way,
matter
it's
of
Nebraska.
fact.
We should call it like herbicide.
There we
Yeah,
go.
there
Yes.
you go. There you go. But it will be, hey, we're 4-0. And even in optimistic projections of the season, this was a game a lot of people had written off when they were looking at it.
That's
They'd
true.
say, close game. They'll fight
This'll be an
hard.
L. Yeah.
But if they win this one, all of a sudden, everything except Penn State is very much on the table. And again, even the 2016 team that started 7-0. I think we all knew that was fool's gold. We all knew that team was not actually a national championship contender. 2012, 2013, the last time we have felt anywhere close to this.
I might even go back to 2010, honestly,
Yeah.
at the beginning of the 2010 season. Because the difference between now and 2016, you're right. Not a lot of people felt that way when Nebraska got up to number 7, but there was still a lot of lingering doubt about Mike Riley.
Yes.
There's no doubt about Matt Rule. I think Matt Rule has done a great job of galvanizing the entire state. And listen, there are still people out there, and I think they're laying in the weeds waiting for this team to stumble so they can say, I told you Matt Rule wasn't the guy. But those are few and far between. I don't think there's as many of those people as there were in 2016, because there is a true support behind Matt Rule.
Sure.
Here. And so just giving them that a little extra bit of, I told you so,
Validation
is going to really fuel the fire around here. I mean, it doesn't take much for Nebraska fans to start thinking big picture. I mean,
right.
I experience it all the time with Jack and his basketball team. So listen, this isn't foreign territory for Nebraska fan base.
Number one, I think it'd be it'd feel like the biggest win since probably 2011 Michigan State or 2009 Oklahoma. In my mind,
I'd buy that
because it's a a conference game. Yeah. It's a game against a team you don't really like that much.
Yeah,
and it's early in the season where
it's a helmet
everything's
game.
Still ahead of you.
Yeah, that 2009 Oklahoma game is a really good comp because I mean, while it's Oklahoma, they had a young quarterback that you were able to keep control of. I mean, Landry Jones isn't Bryce Underwood,
right.
but it was the helmet game.
Right. They seemed like they were coming off their glory days at the time.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very similar to that one. But yeah, and we need to get to the last one. But yes, just let me have a little rat poison because I've had so little rat poison or herbicide or whatever. Because you're right, John. There will be playoff projections where Nebraska shows up in them. Okay, just brace yourself. If you don't like this, sorry. Nebraska's going to be ranked if they win this. And let me tell you one other thing you haven't said. If Emmett Johnson or Dylan Raiola has a big game,
ooh, baby,
you'll start to see him on those lists.
Especially Dylan.
Dylan will be on that list.
Especially
absolutely.
Dylan. If Emmett has a really big game.
I think Emmett would have to have a monster game to show up.
I mean, he's going to be if he has a really good game, he's going to be a top 3 rusher in the nation. He's 5 right now, I think.
Yeah, but it's just hard for running backs anymore.
We'll see
in this sport to
we'll
get
see.
that
If
kind
he
of
scores
attention.
3 touchdowns against Michigan.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
The right opponent.
All right. We need to finish off. We do have one more quickly. A lot of rumors. Bud Crawford will be in there. Obviously. Big game. Nate says he knows nothing. Take that for what it's worth. It's a 2:30 game, not a night game. What do you guys think it's going to feel like in Memorial Stadium for this game? Michigan, whatever intensity they bring from fans, which I think is a decent amount.
This doesn't have the same vitriol as the Colorado game, so I'm just going to set that off to the side. One thing about this fan base is they show up when they need to. Maybe they're not there all the time, which frustrates some folks, but you don't need to bring your A game for Akron or Houston Christian. This fan base will bring its A game. It will be crazy in there. It will be loud. The tailgates will be going. I think this is, everyone loves the night. This feels right. Middle of the afternoon, CBS. The CBS trucks were here on Monday.
Yes.
Ooh,
I mean, they've been setting up. They're going to give it the big treatment. It will be a really, really good atmosphere. It won't be as good as Colorado was to start, but if this game goes as a lot of people hope it does, by the end of the game, it will be crazy.
I just wish it would be dark by the end.
Yeah,
I'd like those old Oklahoma games.
Just get
Mr.
Burns
change.
to get the sun block.
There you go. It might be cloudy. I want it to be cloudy for some reason. I cheer for cloudy.
It'll make it
Makes
feel like
bigger.
more
I
of
don't
a
know
Big
why.
Ten game.
I know that's
later
so
in the
stupid.
season.
So one day a year I cheer for it to be cloudy.
Yes.
All right, we'll take a break. That's it for your morning drive. Brought to you by Stonebridge Insurance and Wealth Management on KLIN.
All the games, none of the subscriptions. Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN. 199.3 KLIN.
All right, we got to enjoy that. Real quickly before we take a break, though, let's look at the Big Ten slate for this week. Tonight, we've got Big Ten action on Friday night, as we usually do now in this era of football. Iowa at Rutgers. Interesting. Maybe we'll see that show up on the Pick'em coming up a little bit later. Saturday, 11 a.m., your early game in the Big Ten, Maryland at Wisconsin. Oh, boy. Could be interesting. And then 2 o'clock, Oregon State at Oregon in a non-conference game. Of course, Michigan and Nebraska, Purdue at Notre Dame. Then in the evening, you've got the headline game, Illinois at Indiana, 6:30, Washington at Washington State. The Apple Cup still being played at 10 o'clock. Late start for those fans in Michigan State. Michigan State is going to go to USC. I'm going to guess that's 11 o'clock local time there for Michigan State. So, well, we stayed up here and watched Bud Crawford start fighting at midnight, so you can do it too. All right, there you go. That's what's coming up this Big Ten weekend. It's 8 o'clock on KLI and Lincoln.
Home and away. Now streaming live on the KLIN app and at KLIN.com.
Run to the end zone. Touchdown, Huskers! Isaiah Hunter for the Husker touchdown.
Who do you think you're fooling? Nobody's thinking about their job the day before a Husker game.
Pedals the throw. Blitz picked up. Harris went out deep right sideline. 50-50 ball. It's picked off. The black shirts with the dagger. Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick. Sails the night for the Big Red. Drifts back to throw. Dumps it to an underneath crosser. Goody made the catch. Got popped. Ball's loose, but they say incomplete.
This is the Friday Husker Tailgate with Jack Mitchell, Nate Rohr, John Bishop, and Kevin Suits on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499. Do you know your foe? We'll introduce you, but we can't guarantee you'll get along. It's the Friday Husker Tailgate Opposition Disposition on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
It's the third hour of the Friday Husker Tailgate on 1499.3 KLIN.
You gotta save that thing, man. You're doing two jobs now.
That's true. That's
you know
true.
what? I that was my one good hard fastball in the bullpen.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
The rest
It's,
of the day,
All right.
it's a
That's
sign
your
of
shot.
it's a
lot of
bullpen
whispering.
day. It's a bullpen day. Well, good. Welcome back to the Friday Husker Tailgate. That, of course, was Nate Rohr, PA voice of Nebraska football, and now Kansas City Chiefs for the time being as well. So
Yes.
very cool there. John Bishop from our sister station 1620 The Zone in Omaha, which, by the way, we'll be simulcasting with during the 5:30 to 6 o'clock segment of Drive Time Lincoln and what's being called the Super Friends Roundtable
I
by
hope
John.
you can tolerate our new co-host today. I know you're used to
not a
Michael.
fan.
Now you got to get
I'm
used
just
to some other guys.
bigger fan of Michael than that guy, but
Yeah,
in
I
any
know.
case. And then joining us now, Kevin Suits, sports director from 1011. Hello, Kevin. How are you doing?
I want to hear the CBS theme song from you.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yes.
This is a song that reminds me of kicking Florida's.
But dude,
For a lot of people, it reminds you of SEC football.
No,
it still feels new
it's
that
still-
Big Ten has games on CBS.
It still
Yeah,
But
reminds
it's
me-
exciting. It's exciting for you. You guys get to get an extra pregame show. This is awesome.
Yeah,
for the first one.
Here locally, 1011 will broadcast Nebraska versus Michigan on Saturday. Kickoff 2:30. The national pregame show is at 2, and then we're live from Memorial Stadium 1 to 2 o'clock.
You've had you've had unconventional weekends. This is probably going to be a more normal Husker football weekend
Well, this
for
is
you here
exciting.
on Saturday.
And you know, like earlier this week, the press conferences over there outside Memorial Stadium, there was such a matter of fact, it's just the next game tone. And I'm like, come on, it's a huge game, a ranked
Enormous,
team,
yeah.
you know, and I like Nebraska's chances. I think this is, if you look at the game and what Nebraska has shown you so far through 3 games, I think confidence level from a fan about this ranked matchup is probably higher than it's been in a long, long time. Over the course of this 9-year losing streak against teams from the top 25, when was the last time you went into a contest thinking, I think Nebraska's going to win?
That's a good
And I think there's a
question.
lot of people that are saying, I think Nebraska's going to win. There's also the guarded optimism, which a lot of my co-workers seem to have right now, is they just can't let themselves go there.
Right,
No.
right.
But there's a difference because in these other games, especially these helmet games, Nebraska's been a decided underdog, to Ohio State, to Michigan. This is a pick 'em.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, even the odds makers say There's a good chance here. So there's just a difference in the air about this one that we haven't experienced here in a very long time.
Yeah, that's a fun exercise for this afternoon, is to look at over the course of, 27 games that Nebraska has lost to ranked teams, how many were top 10 opponents, and were they had to slay the dragon? So you went into the ranked matchup thinking, well, if we put it all together, we're going to have to play a near perfect game. But how many times has the margin been razor thin?
Yeah. Well, and the one that comes to mind is one of the more recent ones is the Illinois game in
Last
2024,
year.
where Nebraska was also ranked. Nebraska was ranked higher. I assume Nebraska came in the favorite in that game.
At home,
They were a
absolutely.
9-point favorite.
A 9-point favorite in that game. So, and I don't know, I can't remember what feelings were like going to that, but you had the Northern Iowa game between Colorado. I think probably the confidence.
But still, that's
maybe
just
was
year,
similar.
that's year 2 of Matt Rule, so there's still a lot of learning happening. And I think that the matchup of that game last year was overshadowed by it being the 400th consecutive sellout at Memorial Stadium, and they were playing on Friday night.
Yeah.
So there's so much discussion that was actually less about football and more about the pomp and circumstance of the event.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the last time where Nebraska did go in against I think that's the best one that I've got, where Nebraska went in against a ranked team, and most of the time Nebraska wasn't ranked.
But that was last year.
9
Give me
years.
something from, say, 2019, 28. I don't know.
There wasn't there. Let's see. Well, 2018, it was tough because that was Frost's first year. I'm looking here. Like, they went to Michigan when Michigan was ranked 19th, but no, they didn't expect to win that game.
No.
Right? They went to Madison, and they didn't expect. I mean, they were already hadn't won a game at that point, and they went to Columbus, and they kept that game close, but nobody expected them to win that game. 2019, Wisconsin came here, but they were 15th, but nobody. That was not a game. I mean,
a lot of the quote
had been a
unquote
rough season.
winnable games, or the games in which Nebraska's chances were probably highest, seem to be on the road. Some of the ranked opportunities at home. From my quick think back on this, they are against top 10 teams. When Michigan came here and they're number 6 in the nation. That's just
number 2.
Yeah, it just seemed like such a monumental task. But I just feel like there's a spirit about this game across this community that hasn't been felt in a while. This is a huge opportunity, and you hear the word breakthrough used often, especially with the coach in year 3, with the track record that Matt Rule has with his success in year 3. If there was ever a perfect script for a quote unquote breakthrough, it would be this Saturday, because it's year 3. It's at home. It's CBS national television. There's a lot of stuff happening around town tonight and tomorrow with different media members and YouTube shows, and the Who's Who, and the 95 team is back. There's a lot of things that really align. And tomorrow, September 20th, could be a day that folks talk about for a long, long time.
2021 Michigan, we forget a little bit because of how that season ended up
that's
going.
true.
That was a number 9 ranked Michigan team, and the spread was the same as it is for this week. But the difference is that Nebraska had 3 losses going into that game.
Yeah.
This team is undefeated. This team's, and you felt like this team this year is rising, and that now they're waiting for that breakthrough. 2021, I suppose you could say they were waiting for that breakthrough, but they already had 3 losses. So it felt a little different. That felt winnable, but different based on where the program was. The program feels like, as we talked about in the last hour, Jack, they win this game, we've got 2 weeks to talk about playoff possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't around in 2020.
Well, this is a season opener. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah.
Because so many people throw away Houston Christian and Akron, and because it was 3 weeks ago, Cincinnati.
Which feels like 2 months ago.
Right.
Yeah.
But the body of work, it's just not all that sexy for Nebraska. And I don't know that you're going to make any season-long predictions or takeaways from what has happened in the first 3 weeks. So it's like we're doing the season opener all over again because of the curiosity. And, there's so many things you haven't seen. And I know for a fact Nebraska has a lot in the playbook that they have not shown. Formationally, play-wise, personnel-wise, there's a lot of mystery in game 4. And that's exactly how they wanted it to go.
Yeah, I can't find another to really match this scenario where Nebraska hadn't yet sort of had a big disappointment yet in the year, and so there was still high confidence in them against a ranked team. The best thing I can think of again is maybe that Illinois game last year or the game that they last won against a ranked team when Oregon came in, when Nebraska wasn't ranked, because Nebraska was ranked for that Illinois game, right?
Yes.
We forget that, but the Oregon game might be the best kind of proxy for this, and it was the last time they won against a ranked team. 2016, September 17th, 2016.
Not to pee in your
9 years
Cheerios,
and 2 days ago.
but that Oregon State team finished 4-8 that
That
year.
Oregon team. Yeah, they did. And
So it was a
who knows?
ranked win, but when it was all done,
Right.
you're like,
And could
that
Michigan
team wasn't
finish
great.
6-6 this year?
True.
I mean, possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly. I don't know. We don't know yet exactly what this team is, but coming into it, I would say it kind of feels the same. Well, let's talk a little bit about Michigan, guys. Boy, is Michigan underrated? Where does Michigan rank in the typical Nebraska fans' disdain rankings? Obviously, they're below Colorado, Texas, Iowa, probably Wisconsin,
Oklahoma,
probably Miami,
yeah,
probably. But are they in a set? Because we do have 97, right?
Sure,
we do have 97.
But that was a debate. That wasn't something that happened in a game. That was a debate. That was, sure. Did they not play us because, their conference was tied to the Rose Bowl? Yes. But there really wasn't
it's also,
and they'd only played before they joined the Big Ten. They'd only played once in 30 years.
Right.
The 62 game that put Devaney on the map.
And the bowl game.
And the bowl game.
That's
what I was thinking of.
Yeah,
The Fiesta Bowl.
The bowl game there. But it's been sort of I don't know what the overall series
it's 8-4.
record is.
8-4-1, Michigan.
Okay. It was close. I bet it's, you had Corey Ross in the Alamo Bowl, right? You had Shoelace getting hurt at Memorial Stadium. I mean, legendary games that people never
keep talking yourself into this.
I don't know. And
it still needs to happen. I think eventually it can happen, but the problem is this league's too doggone big, and these two teams just aren't paired up against each other enough. It's almost too bad, instead of drawing Ohio State like they have for the last decade, that it wasn't Michigan.
Yeah.
Because Michigan's a lot easier to hate than Ohio State, even though Ohio State has been a better program.
Yes.
Michigan, because of their snootiness and their arrogance. I mean, Michigan is the Texas of the North.
Yes.
Right?
Very much.
We haven't had enough cross-pollination. We haven't had a chance to really face them enough to build up that angst.
There's sort of Michigan fans everywhere. It's kind of like North Carolina basketball.
Yeah.
I know a weirdly large amount of them. People who are even from Lincoln who are Michigan fans, and it's because of the Fab Five or whatever,
Sure.
and like they've become fans. But I would rank them a solid 3 in my Big Ten disdain rankings. I would rank them only behind Iowa and Wisconsin. I can't think of another team.
I would.
Who else is he? Minnesota?
No, you're just frustrated. Here's the thing, no, it hasn't really happened on the field yet, but you think about the 97 discussions. You also think about the controversy of to play or not to play around COVID, and who is driving the bus to cancel the Big Ten season.
Desmond
Michigan.
Howard. Yes, and Michigan.
And who was trying to play? Nebraska. And, the other thing is, first off, they're just arrogant anyway. Like everybody in the Big Ten will tell you that. The other thing is, I love the Texas comp because they just kind of roll out of bed and they're always good. It feels, Ohio State feels more like Nebraska to me. They want to be national champions. They want the biggest, the best. Whereas Michigan, it's sort of the snooty, we'll allegedly conduct ourselves with high class and we'll be above it all. And then we find out, they've got spies all around, and
they represent the continuing cultural gap still between Nebraska fans and the Big Ten. I think.
Sure.
Yes, they do.
Fans who say things like it's more important to win the Rose Bowl than the national championship.
Not in a million effing years.
That kind of thing,
Well, for those that have been to a game at Michigan at the Big House, like what you guys are describing, it kind of aligns with the vibe inside the Big House, because it's a very wine and cheese crowd. It's not this like raucous,
No.
college,
Really?
festive. Yeah, it's different. It's a big event, and it's still really cool. But the feeling of it, the vibe, the atmosphere, it's not like a Camp Randall Stadium or a Memorial Stadium
or
if
the
we,
shoe.
yeah, or if we Kyle Field, if you want to loop in the Big 12 SEC, like it. The big house is cool, but it just feels different.
Yeah. Well, the stadium's built in such a way it doesn't hold the noise in, but it's not. I mean, you don't think of moments where the Michigan crowd felt like they impacted the game. And think about all the great games they've played in that place.
Sure.
Right? It just never feels that way.
It plays great on TV, though. The aerial shots are pretty tremendous. Yeah.
Michigan is called the Wolverines, and I used to think it was because, well, I'm sure there must be, Wolverines roaming the wild of Michigan, the forests, and perhaps they build Wolverine huts in the lakes or whatever that they've got in Michigan. There's been one Wolverine sighting ever in Michigan.
Wow.
And that was in 2004, and it's a female that they believe came from Ontario, Canada. There are no Wolverines in Michigan. So what are we doing here with this? People don't even quite understand why they're called the Wolverines. There was a theory on this, which Fielding Yost put forward. He wrote about it in the Michigan Quarterly in 1944. He felt the reason for the nickname concerned the trading of Wolverine pelts, which occurred in Sault Ste. Marie for many years. The trading station served as an exchange between Native Americans and other trappers and fur traders who would eventually ship the products to the eastern United States. And because many of the furs were, in fact, Wolverine pelts, traders may have referred to them as Michigan Wolverines, leading the state to nickname and ultimately to the University of Michigan representation. So Fielding Yost, this is really interesting. He was inspired by a quirky tradition at the University of Wisconsin where they'd bring actual live badgers onto the field. And so we got to keep up with Wisconsin. They're the class of the Big Ten. And so what do we need to do? We need to get a live Wolverine. The only problem, no Wolverines in Michigan. They're not existing in Michigan. Despite that, Yost wanted to do it, so he reached out to 68 different trappers with no luck. He finally found what he thought was a Wolverine owned by a senator, only to discover later it was a coyote. He eventually had to settle for a taxidermied Wolverine, but his dream of a live mascot never died. He finally got a pair of them from the Detroit Zoo. The two Wolverines, Biff and Benny, were brought to the stadium in cages, but they were so wild and aggressive, they chewed through their cages and deemed a danger to anyone nearby. They were promptly retired after just one season, never to return, and the university has gone without a live mascot ever since, with the athletic department once calling the idea unnecessary and undignified.
Yep. Sounds like
there's Michigan.
Oh,
there
boy.
you go.
So while other schools have live mascots, Michigan's left with a nickname based on an animal that doesn't live in the state and a mascot whose brief career was a chaotic mess.
Those two Wolverines' names were Biff and Benny.
Biff and Benny.
Biff?
Biff
Like
Poggi?
Biff Poggi?
Yep. Biff.
Like, it is destiny for him to be the interim coach.
The Wolverines Fielding Yost brought in. He knew what was going to happen.
Yep.
That's
Wow.
true.
Fielding
like
Yost,
a
legendary
Simpson,
former Nebraska coach.
Like a Simpsons episode.
So there you go. Yes, but no Wolverines in Michigan. There were some pelts there for a while.
I feel like
guess.
too.
Maybe
Yes.
they need to change the origin story and say it's named after the 1984 movie Red Dawn.
Maybe that'd be better.
Where Patrick Swayze's militant group was
That
called the
would be better.
Wolverines.
Yeah.
That would seem better.
I mean, come on. In any case, notable alums. Now, here we go. You ready for all the notable alums? President Gerald Ford. Gerald Ford.
Of Omaha.
Today. Yeah, of Omaha.
He was
Yes.
delicious.
Don't get me started. I'm
Stunning
going to watch
news
that again.
from your Belinda. I'm sorry.
Vice President Gerald Ford was eaten by a bear.
Are you saying he wasn't delicious?
This is the most underrated SNL sketch ever. Google it if you don't know what we're referencing right now.
Dana Carvey, Gerald Ford.
Yes.
Just look it up. Just look
Yep.
it up.
Do yourself a
Michael
favor.
Phelps, James Earl Jones, literally Darth Vader.
Yep.
Interesting. Larry Page of Google, Ben Carson. What happened to Ben Carson? Iggy Pop, actress Selma Blair, Arthur Miller, as in Death of a Salesman,
former Mr. Marilyn Monroe, I think, at least briefly.
There you go. Darren Criss, right, from both Glee and Hamilton.
Okay.
He's the British king, yes, on the original cast. Ann Coulter, Gilda Radner, John DeLorean of the DeLorean car and time machine. Dave Coulier, Cut It Out.
Yes.
Mike Wallace of 60 Minutes fame. Ann B. Davis. Alice went to Michigan. Clarence.
I always thought she kind of held herself a little snootier than those Brady kids.
Indeed.
Clarence Darrow. Are we going to ever do like some kind of a hologram William Jennings Bryant, Clarence Darrow rematch?
I like this
before the
idea.
Nebraska-Michigan
That's
game?
that's actually the light show for this week's game.
It's the final shot of the tunnel walk.
We're going to take a
William
3-hour
Jennings
break and
Bryan.
redo the Stokes
With a right
monkey
hook.
trial there
Yep.
the whole time. It'll be amazing. So there you go. Those are some of your notable alums, a wide variety of folks from Michigan. Now let's talk about on the field for Michigan, guys. 3 games, as we've talked about quite a bit here this year so far. A New Mexico game, it was kind of close until the end. New Mexico had kind of a cool trick play in that game. Michigan ended up pulling away. The Oklahoma loss, and then they rolled up Central Michigan. We've talked about Bryce Underwood. His numbers so far, 57% passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Rushing, he's got 14 rushes for 108 yards net, 7.7 average yards per carry. Justin Haynes, he's the running back. He's got the gaudy stats on the offense. 49 carries, 388 yards, 7.9 yards per rush, 5 touchdowns. Buoyed, of course, by that 75-yard touchdown run that he had. A few long runs that he's got. Wide receivers, they have got, 2 receiving touchdowns this year. Samaj Morgan got 1, and then you've also got Marlon Klein, the tight end, who's got 1. Only 1 receiver in double-digit catches for Michigan so far this year. Donovan McCulley, no one over 158 yards in receiving so far this year for Michigan. So kind of wonder about that passing attack. And then talking about the players, the leader of the defense, and this hurts. This hurts. You know who the leader of the defense is statistically and as a captain? Columbus, Nebraska's own Ernest Hausman. Do you think he was going to be a stud when you covered him in high school?
I remember a Thursday night he was playing at Seacrest Field, and maybe his sophomore, junior year of high school. The camera kept going to number 6 from Columbus. You're like, who is this guy? He was good. I didn't know he'd be a captain at Michigan, but you figured he was going to play at the next level.
Yeah. Then just in terms of statistical rankings, Michigan's best is rushing offense. They're 15th in the nation compared to Nebraska's 60th. And it's, still a little early to really get into these stat rankings, but kind of interesting. Michigan's done well as Nebraska has in turnover margin. They are number 11 in the nation in turnover margin as well. Passing offense, 81st. Passing efficiency, 86th. Total defense, 45th right now. Rush defense, 25. Pass defense, 43. Third down defense, 101. Interestingly enough.
Yeah, Nebraska's got a chance here. If they can stay on schedule, they can convert a lot of third downs. Michigan's given up a few, and Nebraska's been very efficient on late downs this season. So in a game that we anticipate might be tight, that could be a critical factor for Nebraska.
So a note to you, Mr. Rohr, clear that throat. Third down.
There you
Don't
go.
miss third downs.
And by the way, can you believe this? The stat of punt returns. Nebraska 16th in the nation, Michigan 120th.
Where have you gone, Desmond
Wow.
Howard? Well, actually, I wish you'd go.
I can't imagine. I can't believe that comes in, at least statistically, an advantage for Nebraska. By the way, Nebraska, the number 1 passing defense, the number 2 pass efficiency defense, the number 6 total defense, the number 7 scoring defense, the number 5 passing offense, the number 8 passing efficiency offense, the number 10 total offense.
But let's be real. So much of the rankings, it all is determined on who you play.
Right. Yep.
Michigan played Oklahoma. Nebraska played
This is an imperfect
Cincinnati.
Again, it's just fun to see those single digits. It's fun.
And Jack's all about the fun. So we appreciate all of that.
As I said, I haven't had rat poison for a long time, so just a little will probably be okay.
Well, here's the thing about Michigan. They love to run the football. They're really good up front. This game's likely going to be won in the trenches, and Michigan wants it that way. Their rushing statistics, you pointed out that Justice Haynes is almost at 8 yards per pop, and they've been so efficient just busting big runs and then moving the sticks on the ground. However, the rushing totals, which do rank high, if we want to look at the rankings 3 games into the year, they've done it without Bryce Underwood really running the football much, and that's a big part of his game. So that might be something that Michigan's tried to hold back a little bit and try to get their freshman quarterback comfortable just running the offense. And now, maybe Saturday, they turn them loose a little bit. Nebraska hasn't seen that on film.
Let's grab a break right now. I forgot to play our memory of Nebraska, Michigan, so we will do that here after the break, and then we'll do a final roundtable before we do the picks coming up next. You are listening to the Friday Husker Tailgate. It's 8:34 on KLIN. For it last time, so I do want to do these, John. What are we going back to this week?
Well, this is the last win over Michigan, 2013. It was a cloudy day in Ann Arbor, Michigan. This is the week after the Hail Mary against Northwestern.
Yeah.
The Western.
People, I forget this game. Yeah, I kind of forget.
It was a good game. It was a tight game, and it was a game where Nebraska's defense was swarming all afternoon. We'll just use one highlight here because I know we're a little short on time, but let's use this was early in the game, and Nebraska they set an early tone with a couple of big sacks.
Gardner, play action fake, back to throw. Looking, now being rushed. Gets hit, goes down. He's sacked back at the 15-yard line. It was Zaire Anderson and Aaron Curry combining on the hit. A loss of 10. It'll be second down and 20. Gardner in the gun. Toussaint in his back. Snap back to Gardner, being rushed. Stepping up. Gets buried again at the 5-yard line. Another sack by the Huskers at the 5. Thad Randall, his second big play of this first quarter. And Michigan loses 20 yards on that possession.
Nebraska would end up sacking Michigan 7 times in this game. They would hold them to minus 21 yards rushing because, remember, sack yards come off of the rushing totals. But Nebraska didn't allow Michigan really to get any momentum. Honestly, the Huskers should have won this game by a couple of scores. They had a couple of turnovers, had a muff punt, led to Michigan scores, and then late in the game, Nebraska's driving, get a big 4th down conversion to Kenny Bell, and then on 3rd and 5, it was an option run.
Yes.
It was an option run by Tommy Armstrong. He ended up actually pitching it forward, but he was behind the line of scrimmage. So it ended up being a touchdown pass to Amir Abdullah with 2 minutes to go, and Nebraska won.
Armstrong, forward pass, that's legal, touchdown Abdullah. He was behind the line of scrimmage. It was intended to be an option. It turned out to be a forward pass, and it's a go-ahead touchdown for Nebraska with 2:03 to go.
It's all about the patience of the young Armstrong. Waiting for the pitch, Frank Clark commits, and Abdullah's there, securing a catch with good hands.
It was such a slow, because you could see they were running the option, and it looked like, Amir was there, and Tommy just waited and waited and waited, and then the Michigan defender commits, and then he finally pitched it. But by that time, the pitch perspective was Amir was in front of him.
Yeah.
But fortunately, Tommy was still behind the line of scrimmage, so it was essentially a forward
And Abdullah
pass.
had already built up speed at that point.
Yes.
And that was a great play.
Amir had a look in his eye like, just get me the ball.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he went lunging toward the end zone.
Yeah, we
Great
talked about
diving.
it earlier about Emmett, guys with a nose for the end zone.
Yeah,
Amir
Amir.
had a nose
Oh my
for the end
gosh.
zone.
Quick story. Emmett Johnson told me that he watched that clip earlier this week. And when we were discussing Amir's touchdown, which was Nebraska's last win against Michigan, sure enough, when we got done with our conversation, Amir had texted Emmett and was like, what's the plan for this week? So Emmett and I took a picture. We sent it back to Amir. Great moment. Probably the highlight of my week.
That's awesome.
Love it.
I got a
Amazing.
story from that game. I was spotting for the Husker Network on that one. And Michigan's booths are nice, but the ceiling's a little low. And I'm on the one wall of the booth. And I think it was after Nebraska got the sack to clinch it, to turn the ball, force a turnover on downs. I punch with my fist up. And not only
Like a
do
Tiger
I-
Woods type
yes.
thing. Yeah.
And not only do I break the skin on my hand, I bust the TV in the visitor radio booth in Ann Arbor. So
TVs were
take that.
expensive then, too.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's it's kind
It's
of
kind of a forgotten
it
gem.
is a weird forgotten game. I mean, it was I think it was because Michigan wasn't having a great season, right? I think that's probably
that
why.
was part of it.
But it was it came down to the end and kind of a play that was a really significant one.
Randy
So in any
Gregory had a
case-
huge game in this
Yeah.
one. We heard some of the names from the past, like Zaire Anderson, some names from the further past.
Thad
gosh.
Randall,
Thad
Aaron
Randall.
Curry. Holy
Aaron
cow.
Curry, I would have never remembered Aaron Curry.
What
Wow.
about him?
Kevin, since we've got here, we've kind of gone back and forth on this, and so we're kind of curious what you think. If Nebraska's got an edge in the game, if Nebraska wins the game, what do you think they most have to do, and where's their biggest vulnerability in this matchup against Michigan? What do you think on those?
Nebraska must take care of the football, and I put that a lot of that on the quarterback. Dylan's been clean so far, no turnovers, no interceptions. It's got to stay that way. And Nebraska's got to value every possession because every possession will be important in this game. So what Nebraska has to do is take care of the football. The vulnerability is, can they stop Michigan's rushing attack up front? Of course, your secondary is pretty good. They can tackle, they can cover, but Nebraska's defensive line, which has played well, but again, who have they played against? I think that is maybe the biggest concern for Nebraska fans going into this game is, can they not get pushed back? Does the line of scrimmage stay at the line of scrimmage and not get knocked 5 yards off the ball?
I wonder if that Nebraska defensive line is going to go a little bigger personnel-wise sometimes. It's, they've got, we were talking earlier, McCullough, and I know Nwaneri, I believe, is technically a linebacker, but they put those guys up in the line a lot, but they look like basketball players, right? They're just, right. I wonder if they'll put a little bit more beef on the line, and they've mixed those guys around, nose tackles at end and back and forth. Maybe that'll be something that we see this week for
Cade
Nebraska.
Petchak, can he hold his own against Michigan?
Right? Yeah.
That's a name that comes to my mind. Yeah, it's a huge spot for a freshman. Cam Linhart, Riley Van Poppel, though they are known across Nebraska, they're not really known across the Big Ten. So huge opportunity for some of those young defensive linemen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Judy as well. Those are the guys that are going to be key in that whole thing. On the matchup of Nebraska's offense against Michigan's defense, you're already talking about Emmett Johnson, but what does Nebraska need from him in this game, do you think?
25 carries. You know,
That's all?
control
That's all?
the clock, stay healthy. Don't freak out when you're facing 2nd and 7. You know, it's okay. And that's where I put a lot of trust in Dana Holgerson, you know, like, and again, this offense has not shown much. You know, there are wrinkles.
Yeah, I can tell you feel that way.
Yeah, I really do. And there might be a big moment in this game where Nebraska throws a person or a formation or a play out there that you're like, wow, that was fun. You know, because I even think Dana Holgerson at the end of last year, he didn't really have to show or do much outside of call plays
probably
within the
didn't
offense.
have time either because he was only 3 games into the job.
Yeah, remember, he was still calling guys by their number, not their name.
Yes.
He was like, number 44, he's a good ball player. It's Luke Lindenmeyer. You know, like, so he was learning so much. And so he's just trying to call the offense as Nebraska knew it. Now he's had a full offseason to learn the personnel and figure out what might work. And let Holgerson cook. I mean, let's see what he dials up in a big moment, because this game's going to have big moments, not just at the end of the game, but there might be something at the end of the second quarter that could be a big momentum situation.
And with as much as Michigan will try to pressure Dylan, especially in passing situations, I really emphasize that Emmett Johnson's important as a pass protector, but then also as a relief valve.
Yep, sure.
When, you know, maybe the rush is coming from a different side. So I think Emmett's role, it's not just about how many carries he gets and how many yards he gets, but it's about all the other things that he does that the other backs don't have in their arsenal. I think those things will be just as important as whatever he gets on the ground on Saturday.
And beyond Emmett, you know, what does year 2 of Dylan Raiola look like in a big game with a crazy defense? I mean, with Wink Martindale being the DC at Michigan, they're going to throw so many. They're going to be so multiple. They're going to bring pressure left side, right side, up the middle. They're going to disguise stuff. Last year, I think a lot of that stuff, there's a lot of mental gymnastics with Dylan. You're a freshman in the Big Ten trying to figure things out on the fly against, you know, NFL schemes. Now, having seen it and studied it and probably feeling more confident in what you can do, like, what does that look like? Again, you guys mentioned it earlier. There is potential for Dylan to really emerge among the national, you know,
If they win,
I hate to use the H word.
I know, but if they
win and he plays well, right now he's completing 76% of his passes.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't need to complete 76% of his passes, but if he is efficient and he is clean with the football and he throws for 200, yeah, they're talking H word.
Right.
Because that's what you need. It's not just about putting up numbers, but you also have to do it against good competition, and you have to get those wins, right?
Yes.
So all of those things together, I think Dylan could certainly build himself quite a case if he plays well in Nebraska.
Well, if Nebraska wins, then there's a lot of people across college football that aren't familiar with this Nebraska team that are going to pull up Nebraska's schedule. They're saying, oh, they're 4-0. Who have they played? You realize they haven't played anybody, but you see the numbers, like 68 points and 59 points. Like, oh, holy cow. Let's look into this even more. Then you see the stats. And so that's where, you know, the case starts to be built for Dylan Raiola. So it's really ultimately about winning. And then in the case of Nebraska's sophomore quarterback, not being too fancy, but just being efficient.
Yeah. And maybe one of the reasons we feel a different level of, there's a lot of reasons we feel a different level of confidence. I think collectively as we talk about this, and I sense it from the fan base, part of that is more faith that the special teams is not going to lose the game for you this year and might actually help win the game for you this year. You just haven't been able to feel that in a whole lot of years. And you feel like it hasn't been a factor, of course, in the last 2 games. There's no way, Kevin, that it won't be a factor in this game.
Not true, but how confident do you feel in special teams? Highly? Really high?
I feel like they can make a field goal. I feel very confident about that they can make a field goal. And, you know, every punt that I've seen, which hasn't been a lot, but every punt that I've seen has been really good.
That's the point I'm going to make. They haven't punted in 2 games.
Yeah.
So your confidence is based on 1 game.
And it's based on faith and Mike Eckler.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I think it is. And the personnel, though. I think it's the personnel who's in there, kicker and punter and punt returner, to be frank.
Long snapper. They're throwing the long snapper too.
And long snapper.
There is a chance, because remember, you know, Kunanen came out and boomed that first kick against Cincinnati and then made a couple other field goals later. Michigan's field goal kicker, who was good last year, missed a chippy against Oklahoma, which was important at that time because Michigan needed all the momentum they could get. So, yeah, I think a lot of the hope is in It's in hope in these special teams. But I think there is at least the potential that Nebraska's special teams can make more plays than Michigan special teams, and that can flip field position, because field position numbers have been notoriously anti-Nebraska the last few years, but this year it hasn't been, and that needs to continue, because if it's a low-scoring game, as I think it might be, you want to have as much field position advantage as you can have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, and again, they haven't played the same schedule, although Michigan's had one really tough game and two that are, and Nebraska is statistically better than Michigan right now in special teams overall, I think, right? Michigan not doing well in punt return, missed a field goal, some of those things as well. So we will see. All right, we're going to grab a break. We want to leave time for the picks this week, so we don't have to speed through them quite as much. And of course, who wins Nebraska, Michigan? We will all tell you what we think. Coming up right after this, the Friday Husker Tailgate rolls on KLIN.
Husker football hosts Michigan at Memorial Stadium tomorrow. Game day broadcast presented by Liberty First Credit Union. Kickoff at 2:30 p.m. Pre-game at 10:30.
This is the voice of Husker football, Kyle Crooks. Join us all season on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Bragging rights means everything to these guys. Let the trash talk begin. It's time to call your shot in the Friday Husker Tailgate Pigskin Picks of the Week. Presented by Exchange Bank on Lincoln 1,599.3 KLIN.
Well, same old story last week. John has the best week. Outright West Virginia upset. Closest on the Huskers. He was different on head-to-head picks, but we all ended up even on the head-to-head picks. So he gets 5 last week. I did get the Old Dominion outright upset against Virginia Tech. They won by about $1 million, and Virginia Tech fired their coach. So I got that one right. Kevin, Oregon State was not close, and
They want Trent Bray fired now.
You almost had the Husker score, but John just barely stole it from you. And then the South Florida fairy tales over for Nate. He doesn't.
Bulls are slaughtered. Boo.
So John's got 12.5. I've got 11. Kevin's got 7. Nate's got 7. So we'll go in that order again. John, me, Kevin, Nate for the picks. All right, first pick this week head-to-head tonight. Friday night magic in Piscataway, Iowa at Rutgers, John.
Oh, man. I
What is that? What does that noise mean? You can't wait for this game?
I can't wait for this game.
You're that worried about how long this day is going to
Nobody
take?
walks into Piscataway and beats the Rutgers. I'm going to take the Rutgers this week.
I've always said I love Iowa. I'll take Iowa on this one. Yeah.
I share your excitement, John. I'm going to take Iowa.
It's the one lone game tonight.
But it could be a good game.
Yeah, I'm
It's
interested.
going to be competitive.
Competitive.
Yeah, not good. Good's
but
not the
maybe
right
not
word.
entertaining.
Close game.
Yeah.
Nate, who you got?
Well, it's going to be close because I think the first team to double digits wins. I'm going Scarlet Knights.
All right. Split 50-50 on that one. We finally got one like that. Texas Tech at Utah. Big 12 championship preview, perhaps, John?
I really want Utah, but I think Texas Tech is on. Neither of these teams have played anybody yet, so this is going to be a real interesting game. I'm going to lean Texas Tech.
I'll take Utah.
Taking Texas Tech. Great quarterbacks in this game.
We're going to go straight split again. Utah.
All right.
I love
That'll
the
be
Utes.
that'll be a good one. Wow, I can't believe this happened. I don't think it'll happen here.
Yeah.
I'm sure it won't happen here unless somebody wants to take the upset. But Auburn is at Oklahoma in an interesting SEC game, John. Oh man. I think
This may be the easiest game left outside of the one non-conference game left on Oklahoma's schedule.
Wow.
They play a monster SEC.
I do wonder if there's a letdown there for them. And Auburn's looked good. Okay. But I'll take Oklahoma.
I'll take Oklahoma too.
I'm not buying Auburn Sooners.
All right, there you go. Unanimous on that one. And then the other Big Ten game of the week, Illinois at Indiana, prime time on Saturday night. Hopefully while the Husker fans are celebrating, they can have this on in the background.
There's only one coach in the Big Ten that makes Burt Bielema lovable, and it's the guy he's facing. I want to pick your school, Kevin. I really do. I want to see Illinois trash the heck out of the Hoosiers, but I'm picking Indiana.
I feel the exact same way on every count. I want Illinois to
Cream
win this.
Puff Kurt needs to go down.
Illinois to win this. I'm going to pick Indiana, though.
It's a good game. I mean, on paper, this is pretty fascinating. Statistically pretty similar. Both defenses are about the same. I got Indiana on it, too.
Wow. All four?
I'm rolling with Burt.
There it is.
Let's go, ILL.
All right.
Wow.
Upset pick, touchdown or more underdog. John, 2 points for a win, 1 point for a cover.
I'm arguing with a couple of games, but I'm going to go Maryland plus 10 at Wisconsin.
I like that one. I have that one. There's this upstart coach in the ACC named Bill Belichick who is getting 7.5 points.
Again?
I think this against this veteran from Central Florida, Scott Frost. I like the rookie. I'll take Bill Belichick plus 7.5 North Carolina.
Good. Well, Northern Illinois doesn't have their big breakthrough, their signature win of the year, and I'm going to take Northern Illinois at Mississippi State. They do it every year, and they're getting 21.5.
Ooh. All right, good one. Good one.
Hey, I had Purdue going down to upset earlier this year. I have Purdue at least covering the 25.5 against Notre Dame. They at least keep it closer.
They gave up
than
like 66 last year against them. We'll see. All right.
Game unchanged.
All right, John, who you got?
I am a man of my word. I said it in July. Nebraska wins this game by 2 scores, 24-14.
Ooh. 2 scores, 10 points. I have Michigan 21. Nebraska 24. Huskers win.
I think Nebraska's going to win the game. I even think Nebraska's the better team. I'll take the Huskers 20-16.
21-17, good guys.
There it is. A full sweep for Nebraska over Michigan. That is terrifying. Absolutely horrendously terrifying. Thanks so much, Kevin, John, for being in. Looking forward to listening and watching you guys throughout the weekend. CBS, Kevin, tell people what to watch for here this Saturday.
Pre-game show, 1 o'clock, kickoff 2:30.
All right, there you go. That's it for the Friday Husker Tailgate. We'll see you next time on KLIN.